G'day citizens, good morning, good evening, and good night wherever you're in the world. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared, who is apparently very hot. Not the way you're thinking. Oh, he's gone off already. He'll be back. How you doing, Algared? Sweating your nuts off?
But miracles happen. Miracles happen. Fairly well.
Yes.
Miracles happen. It's 5:01 and we're live.
Yeah.
Introducing.
Oh.
So,
what are we introducing, Algared? Are you watching your YouTube? Oh, no, that was me coming on, and then you had to mute the stream. That's what that was. That was me. I just heard my own voice. Anyway, right. So yeah, what do we got today? We have... What do we have, Algared? Nothing.
Well,
All right, we got nothing.
have,
Anything. We got questions. Because we already did ISC yesterday. That's what I was trying to allude to.
we experimented with ISC at the standalone episode.
Yeah, so that was Algared's idea. He came out with the goods for that one and said, how about we do it as a separate? So we're going to try it this weekend as a separate one and see how it goes. Because we're a little bit annoyed that we were getting a lot of questions about it, but we hadn't had a chance to watch it. Actually, did you see the comment in the comment section saying that we shouldn't watch it before we record it? Did you?
Yeah. And I knew for me it was 100%.
Yeah, I'd never seen it either. Well, we'll put it this way: we got up at 5. Well, I think we did a little later, right? We did about 5:30 in the morning, right? But we got up to do it. That's the funny thing. Like, so yeah, it was quite funny at the time. Hang on, all right, let me get some stuff ready. But you keep telling people about that.
Yeah, I thought that comment was interesting as well, because they said it'd be better if you did a reaction video before before you watched it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, but we did. I couldn't quite guarantee for you.
I think he the way I replied is, this happens a lot in videos you and I do. Yeah. We will talk about something and then they'll literally talk about what we just said straight afterwards. And I just kind of replied, I said, that's, I feel like, I think I just said it just shows that we know what we're talking about, because we stop the video, talk about it, and then sometimes they'll repeat what we just said. Yeah. And that's because we're on,
you could be right, but yeah,
it just shows we're on the wavelength. That's all that shows. That's not showing that we watched it beforehand. That's just lucky. And I've even said in videos, seriously, we haven't watched this. Like, we haven't watched this. That just happens to be that they were on the same thing as us. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think with Idris, I think it comes out more because it's been around so long, and we've looked at it so in depth over the years that it's one of those things you just pick it up. But yeah, I was surprised by that comment a little bit, and I thought, hey, but there was a reaction video. We hadn't seen it.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know if you guys appreciate that, like separating it out for the live stream so we can get it to you like a day sooner. And ironically, it actually helps us on the algorithm as well, doesn't it, Algared? Because that actually gives us a third video every week. So it's kind of like, it helps us in the algorithm because the YouTube wants you to have 3 videos a week essentially, and we only kind of have 2. So we have this live stream and the show that we do. But by separating it out, it kind of gives us a third. It does mean we have to get together another time, and ironically we're going to do it like what is about a 1-hour window, Algared, we have, because you've got to go to school like literally straight after.
It certainly made yesterday an interesting day. Because of the heat, it just made it so uncomfortable. The humidity and heat just made it so uncomfortable to sleep. So I was already feeling sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And getting up an extra hour. Oh.
So this is,
but it was good.
Yeah,
it was getting up and doing it. And I'm sorry, Citizen Scott, the crickets are back.
Yeah.
I actually can't hear it. It's probably because they're there so often that I've just.
Yeah. Again, it's your new microphone. He's still playing with his sensitivity. He actually had a comment in this video too. I don't know if they're down there, but I'll go so fun. But he literally was saying, like, someone was telling me his mic wasn't working properly and stuff like that. But
and in the video, I noticed it wasn't working properly because it was behind me.
Yeah. We had some people correcting us about the gauntlet is not a weapon, and that's because you and I are on the same page. Though me and Algared talk a lot of shorthand. We both knew it was one of the javelins, but we did call it a weapon. That is true. But the takeaway was not that it was a weapon, that we both realized it was one of the javelins.
The javelin. And even though the gauntlet is not necessarily actually a weapon, it is actually can be used as a weapon, and that's how CIG have used it as a name for a javelin.
So I'm gonna reckon you meet up with a Mega 655334 and get him to try out your mic quality, because he picked up on it way better than I ever did. So he might be someone to help you get your mic
I'll have
working.
to have a look at that.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah, this is the one here. Your reaction would be better if you did not watch the video ahead of time. We didn't. So and Algared's reply was, to be fair, it was a reaction for me. So Algared didn't know if I'd seen it beforehand or not, and then I replied there, literally your first time watching, woke up at 5 a.m. to do this. So yeah. And all the rest of the stuff that I told you guys before.
The only reason I didn't know whether it was X is because your sleep patterns are so all over the place.
Yeah. But
sometimes you have been up.
But that was the other part of it too, is you and I deliberately had to wait 24 hours to watch it for the first time, and it was kind of annoying because it's just sitting there in your feed, tantalizing you and teasing you, going, "Come, watch me."
And we were deliberately waiting, and then our chat was asking all these questions or making all these comments about it, and we go, "I don't know."
Yeah, so it just made it difficult for me and Algared.
And it was always spoilers. You guys were giving us spoilers.
Yeah,
about what we
essentially.
And we're going, "Oh, I want to see that."
Yeah, so we're going to try it this way. Let us know. You can let us know here in the comments for this video, or let us know in chat in a statement or something like that. Your thoughts. It's just a bit of a test. We'll see how it goes, but I can't. It is more work for us because again, the hardest part of this job is getting everyone together. So it's just another day where we've got to drag our butts out of bed, and it's early again. It's a little later than today, about an hour later, because we get up about 4:30 to do this. But we got to get up. But I guess it's going to mean we're ready to go the next day, Algared. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to miss this one touch and more. We might miss that one. But yeah, we're going to try and get that. And if we do miss it, or ISC is late, we've already got a plan in place to do it in the afternoon. So that means it would just come before the stream, but probably only 6 to 7 hours before.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and we know that doing it in the evening or the afternoon is not the best either, because it's after it's already done.
Yeah.
But it's still better than doing it during the stream where you guys are saying, "Hey, have you seen what do you think?" So it gives you guys a chance to even see our response to that, and maybe even give you questions to ask. So hopefully it works both ways. It feeds into our live stream questions, but also helps us get it done.
All right, we've only got one question so far. It's going to be a really quick stream. We only have questions today, obviously, because there's no IC. That's why we're talking a lot here, trying to get you guys to put some questions in. But it is up and running and working. I've just confirmed it on Twitch. And the reason I tested on Twitch, if you're curious, is we actually have unlimited draw calls on Twitch, but there is a limited number on YouTube. It's really weird. The way both APIs work, which is their data in the background type of thing, is different on both platforms, and YouTube has a limit and Twitch does not, because obviously Twitch revolves around the chat, and so they don't want you to run out, where YouTube it actually only draws every couple of minutes and pulls them all in a massive pile, where Twitch is like instant every single time. It's just one of the things Algared I've never told him about this, but it's what the bot builder told me about it. So yeah.
It does make sense as to why we get this massive chunk of threads all the time, and then occasionally.
Yeah. All right. So right now we've only got one question, so we will answer this shortly, and if that's over, then we're done. Very quick. So yeah, please get your questions in. Matt P is the only person with a question right now.
Yep.
I guess we'll.
That's an easy question to answer.
Yes, it is an easy question. What did you feel about the? I know we kind of talked about this yesterday, but where the Idris is at and where it's got to go. So to speak. I'm really interested, and we kind of did say this at the end of the video yesterday, but I'm really interested to see the multiplayer aspects that are finally brought into that ship. And I know I talked a bit about the gym as the example, but yeah, have you thought anything else in the last 24 hours since we talked about that video that they possibly need to bring in?
Yeah, I did. One of the comments was actually said we'd forgotten that NPCs will still be a thing. That we'll still be able to employ NPCs, and NPCs are motivated. Have that impact of the daily routine and have a morality factor.
Yeah,
and so
they will probably need to use the gym. Yep, I get that. Yep,
give a means where they've got activities they can do, which will build morale. So,
yeah. So just for those
I think the value for it.
Yeah, so for those that didn't watch the video, I was basically, long story short, that that they themselves mentioned it, is that they have to put a lot of stuff in to bring it up to a multiplayer standard ship because it has a lot of single player stuff in it. And I think for me, it's there's just some rooms there that are going to be glaringly barren. And now I think about the NPCs, that is something I did not think of. But again, I want I like highly functional ships.
Yeah.
And having a room that is essentially what, you know, a couple of cutlasses big, what, 3 or 4 cutlasses, I reckon that gym area was. You know, it's a lot of wasted space, or space that you're just a whole side of the ship you're never going to go to. So yeah.
I think there's also a possibility that you could even use those for putting things down. So because it's again for that persistence idea, like you drop something, that's where it stays. So you could actually go grab a mop and broom from somewhere and put that somewhere in your ship, and or pop crates of gear and stack those areas. So you could actually create, I suppose, additional choke points or defensive positions. So I don't know. But I think if they take all the greebles and all the stuff out that makes the ship feel alive in Squadron, it does aid to the ships feeling very empty and void-like in PU. Almost a bit like what was it? Andromeda. If you've seen this TV show Andromeda, you know when
you're talking about the one with the guy that played Hercules and the wife of the guy from Stargate. I always forget her name. Damn it! But she's been in heaps of stuff, like heaps and heaps and heaps of things. But
you know, when it first starts, it's just him. The massive ship used to have hundreds of crew, and it's just him and the AI and 6 salvage guys who kind of. And so the ship does feel empty all the time, and that's a sense that I think we'll be operating with Beatrice's.
Right. One thing I want as a personal note, I've actually sent you a little video, Algared, just so you can hear it. But I want to get memes of why Algared has crickets all around his house. That's what I want. I want to see some memes of crickets because Algared, they're so damn loud. I swear they're running around your ankles. Like that's how loud it is. So I got to hear it all last week, and I'm hearing it again this week, and I'm sure chat's exactly the same because if I'm hearing it, they're hearing it. So yeah, that mic. So that new mic that you've got, they brought him a mic that was so good. And it's so highly configurable, he's having trouble configuring it. That's the problem.
And trying to get the noise gate so it doesn't pick up the cricket, but picks up me.
Yeah. But
and you guys keep playing.
The funny thing is the crickets are outside, so that just shows you how good the microphone is. Like essentially the next room over, like through the wall, and he can hear them. I just think that's hilarious. So it shows you how good the mic is. He's just
like with the chirping birds.
Yeah. You've just got to get good configured. That's quite funny.
You know, the chirping birds, the birds that land on the roof, you know, or outside on the roof, or you know, pigeons, you know, 3 rats.
All right, we've actually got quite a few questions in there. Now we put the call out.
It's caught up big time.
Right, hang on, I got to click on the right screen. I'm clicking through all my screens. All right, first question is from Matt P, who says, if I upgrade a game package that you've brought with credit with a new cash CCU, will it become giftable? No, you need to do it the other way around. You need to buy, so whatever your starting thing has is what it'll carry all the way through. There are rare instances, right? So I'm talking like if you bought it today, there are rare instances of CCUs that apply insurance, right? And change the insurance type. But generalistically, what you start with is what will carry over. So in your case, if you're wanting to upgrade to another ship, you're already going to put new cash in anyway. So you kind of want to melt what you've got, unless it's got some really valuable stuff on it. So if you want, Matt, say continuation of my earlier question and put it in context. So talk about the game package you have and re-ask your question. But you need to tell us what game package you specifically have so we can tailor the advice to that package. But generally, it sounds like you want to melt it. Buy an LTI token. Now, an LTI token is just a smaller ship that has LTI. For example, at Invictus last year, they had the Fury, which was $55, and then you could upgrade that into your ship, and the insurance would carry over. Algared, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's exactly what it is. That's why when we're talking, if you ever watch our Fix My Fleets, or we're talking about new ships, and we're talking about whether the ships are worth getting, we'll say this is an LTI token. because it's that initial insurance on the package that you get that you're using. A CCU is just a cross chassis upgrade. That's what CCU means, and it's the idea.
Oh, we lost him again. He'll be back. Give me a second. What time is it? 5 o'clock. What are they doing in Sydney this early that's making his neck cut out? But anyway.
I can't tell you why.
All right, you're back. Go ahead.
Yep. So a cross chassis upgrade is just taking the ship that's covered by the insurance and you're just modifying the hull effectively to change it into the new ship. And you're paying, the idea is you're paying the difference from the value of the ship you've got to the value of the ship you're going to. And that's why war bond CCUs become valuable as well, because when they put out a war bond CCU, it's buy this CCU with cash and we'll give you a bigger discount. And so you're getting the ship of the higher value for that cheaper price. And so it's all related, but you always want to start from, if you're after LTI, you always want to start with a ship that's got LTI and then CCU up. As you said, very occasionally you'll get a CCU that changes.
I think we've had I think we've only ever had the one that added LTI, but we've had ones that have like increased the insurance and stuff like that. So generalistically, other than that one time where it added LTI, it was a lot better. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm seeing a trend of money raising at the moment, right? So and I'll put this out there to the audience as well, and see if you've seen it as well. You know, we had the F8. We've just had an Idris sold for the first time outside of an Invictus or an AIE ever, besides the first time it was ever sold, right? And the first time it was sold was around an AIE anyway. I think it was October, so it was not that, you know, it was around CitizenCon AIE anyway, so it's not too bad. But this is like literally January, like in the lull zone. And I've got a feeling this year we're going to see a lot of things for sale outside of that. So it looks like they're raising money. So that, I wonder if that tells me that there's a dip in purchasing or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that trend continue. And I'm going to be honest, if you are watching now and you're anyone at CIG, if you want to raise money, LTI would be a very good way to do it. If you can make it so that there is CCUs out there that add LTI, people will buy them. If you can add LTI to any ship and it just costs $15 to add it to any ship, people will buy them. And if you keep that on the store, people will buy them. If you made it so every CCU now came with their LTI, I guarantee you will make a shit ton of money from now on, because people will just be converting their old ships. And even if you made it cost $5 to $15 more, people would pay that for that peace of mind. That's why LTI has been so popular, right? It's peace of mind, right? It is not required. It is literally a peace of mind to put your, I've just spent a ridiculous amount of money on virtual spaceships at peace. And we've said,
want to use that money, yeah.
We have both said for years, haven't we, Algared, that this is something that should have been done years ago. Just give everyone that spends money LTI. So if you can convert to that, I guarantee you the conversion will give you a shit ton of money.
I think I'm on record with Sandy, you know, easily, and others saying, you know, just make LTI.
We talked about that to her, didn't we, in our last interview with her? We did, yeah.
You know, but it's something I've been saying. You know, I found Star Citizen 2014. I joined in 2014. In 2014, I was saying that.
Yeah. Oh, that's when they were.
LTI was not that.
That's when they were talking about taking it away, weren't they, for the first time? Because a lot of the original backers were complaining that it was only meant for them, and they clearly wanted to use it as a marketing tool. And so it's come into this really weird grey zone, and it's just stayed there since 2014. And I don't like it. I honestly, like, I think the original backers wanted it as a unique thing, like exclusive to them. And so this was the compromise, but now it's in this really weird gray zone that's just made it super confusing. And the way I would relate it to that people would understand is almost like what they've recently announced with the gimbals. You know, everything was a size down, there was this negative thing. And so you had to kind of slightly calculate in your head all the time. CCUs are a little bit like that, where you have to kind of calculate and work all this shit out, and it's just annoying. Simplify it, make it LTI across the board, and it just removes half the complexity of this shit straight away, does it not?
Although I could see the negative of that, in terms of, you know, once you buy your CCUs for your ships, you guarantee they've got LTI, but then how does that impact the CCU sales? And the CCU sales themselves are really.
I I can only, well, put it this way: if everyone has a ship, they would buy it to get LTI,
Yeah,
and then there's people
everyone-
like me and yourself that already have LTI, right? But
Yeah.
the sales have clearly stalled or slowed. It's very clear. Now you can talk about record sales year on year, right? But they also have more staff than ever now. We're not taking that into account, right? So we are now up to 1,300 staff, where at the beginning of last year it was around 860, right? That's a huge growth spurt. Now I know you can talk around about that they brought out behavior and all that, right? That's fine, but more mouths to feed, more money required.
Yeah. And I think whenever you buy out, you add a new company, add a new facet, that does mean you've got to tweak things and work things out. But it also means you've got added expenses. And so, yes, we might be seeing massive or increases on overall profit each year or overall sales each year.
Yeah.
But we don't know how that ties in with.
Let me put it back on you then, Algared, because this is my thought pattern, right? You said you could see the good and the bad. Let me put it this way: would you rather they'd brought out LTI and broke the LTI promise, so to speak, or release the F8?
Oh, I'd rather they did LTI.
Exactly. That's my whole point. It's rather than breaking more kind of promises like selling the F7A. Well, if they sell the F7A, I wouldn't really mind, to be honest with you. But the F8 one kind of was like, you said that was a reward for Squadron 42, and I didn't buy one. I've kept that as my reward for Squadron 42, if you know what I mean. And I think a lot of older backers may or may not. Like, it depends on who they are. And if you wanted one and you got one, power to you. And they also said it was the only time it was ever sold, and they sold it again in January. Do you know what I mean? That whole sale, in case you missed it, is another money raising thing, right? We're seeing this pattern, right, of money raising, and it's only been going for 3 months. And I have to ask why, right? And I'll think about it, and I can answer it. But I think most people, when you think about it, it's because they need money, and I don't know if it's because there's more mouths to feed or what's going on there. But if they're money raising, they obviously need money. Like, it's a no-brainer.
I could also see it tying in with planned advertising campaigns. That's an added expenses.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. When you need money, what could they need money for? And obviously added expenses. Squadron 42 might be coming out. Might need to advertise that. Just more proof of what you and I. More proof of what you and I have been saying, Algared.
What can I say? We shouldn't have recorded. We should have recorded this shouldn't have recorded it after we watched it or
yeah.
All right.
So what he's talking about here is me and Algared talked about this a lot last night, at length. I think was it last night or the night before? Shit, I can't remember. Grim's saying he would. Grim Starjump is saying it wouldn't shock him if we see the F7A hit with a similar event this year. Absolutely. We've heard rumors to that effect. Apparently it was meant to come out in December and it got delayed for some reason. But yeah, I've talked to a few people, and apparently it's on the cards. I don't know when it's going to be. I think the real next event will be St. Patrick's Day. If you don't correct me if I'm wrong here, which is in about 2 weeks' time. Which is, I think it's March 14th, March 17th. Someone will correct me. Sometime in mid-March. Let's just leave it at that. So that's coming up. And that'll have all the Fortuna shit, won't it? So all the green. If you like green, it'll be in.
17th of March is St. Pat's Day, I do believe.
And there was leaks. St. Patrick's Day is around when it is. But do you remember when we looked at the skins? And I'm having a bit of a blank, but they had the leaked skins, and it was a series of new ships that had them. I'm just looking through my old pictures now that I sent you. Hold on.
Yeah.
Someone in chat may mention it. If you're an avid watcher, you might remember that we showed it off, or you might have even seen them yourself.
It was when we were looking at all the skins that have been released.
Okay, wait, hang on. Yes. Hang on, got them. So it's the one I've got here is the Fury, the Razor, and the Hercules. They're the three. Hang on, I'll open the browser and we'll switch over. Hang on.
They're the 3 new ones.
They're the 3 new ones. I'm only talking about the new ones, Algared. But yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Wait, that last one did not open for some reason.
So yes, it'll be a chance to get your P72 Emerald, your Andromeda Emerald or whatever emerald. So
yeah. So if you're wondering why these are so small as well, these are actually taken from the liveries panel inside the files of the game. So where you apply your skin, this is that little icon that essentially is in that. So yeah, obviously C2 is getting one. We've got another one here on the Razor, which actually they're clearly metallic. It's just that this angle has a better angle in lighting. And then the Fury. So I don't know how I feel about that. I think the Hercules one will be the flavor of choice there. You correct me if you think I'm wrong there, Algared.
I do like the Razors.
That's true. Yeah,
it does have a nice thing. I do think also the metallic sheen of that emerald is. I hope they put that across all of the ships. That's nice. I like that metallic sheen.
I have an instant response to this. Pissball Pete in Twitch chat and Grim just agreed with him on it. Was the Hornets are going up in price for some reason after the F7A could be the reason. But you know why the Hornets going in price. I know why the Hornets going in price. Why are the Hornets going up in price?
I can't remember at the moment. Old man disease.
The Super Hornet went up in price. That's why.
Of course, yes.
They're bringing up consistent. Yeah, consistency. That's what that is. Yeah.
But it could all they could be planning the F7A release, although I have a feeling that we won't see CCUs to F7A because their original release of the F7A upgrade was that fundraiser for the VA.
But I again, if they can bring it out again at $20 and well, here's the thing, what if they bring it out at $40 and 20, like $10 still goes to charity? How would you feel about that?
Now,
or something like that?
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, but this
I have no problem if I said 20. This came out originally at $20, selling at $40, 50% of whatever's sold on this goes to the VA.
Well, the original problem, though, you'll remember, the original problem was the charity they put it towards. It was only an American charity, and that's what the blowback was. It was, even back then, it was considered a global game, and all the money was going to an American charity. So I reckon they're better off to do something global like Red Cross or VAs across the world. I don't know. Again, that's just more work for them. But
even if it was just went to the Veterans Association of the nation where the purchase was made.
Absolutely. Again, if they can, it depends how hard that is to set up, right? And obviously, certain countries won't have something like that. That's the other thing. So,
but I'll be honest. Look, I did not mind. Like, I'm Australian.
I didn't mind that much, but to be honest, it's just. I think it wasn't the fact that it was that way. It's the fact that people felt like they'd been passed over. Like, I can see why people were pissed. Put it that way.
I could understand. People who had veterans, who were supporting veterans or who were veterans themselves, feeling my association has been ignored, even though I support the game.
Yeah.
But I think it was a gesture of we are supporting veterans. And I don't really have a problem of it just being the VA.
Yeah.
I don't know how bad the Australian Veterans Association suffers, but I know the American VA. They have issues, they have larger overheads, it seems, and so I don't mind. I thought it was a great example of stuff.
I think that's the takeaway, is you don't want to kind of look at who it's going towards. You want to look at that it's helping people, regardless where they're from,
But the other problem with it being limited, and the reason CIG don't do it again is because they want it to be for that. But the problem is it means those copies that were sold, those CCUs for the VA,
they're up to about $400 now, so they are literally $380 that doesn't go to CIG.
Or don't go to the VA.
That too, yeah.
So CIG was giving everything to the VA, the grey market copies. Nothing goes to the VA.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, if you turned around and sold that as a complete ship, right? And I mean like complete. So you can't buy an upgrade. It's the whole thing. And say it was $200 and they turn around and said CIG gets $100 and then they pick 5 random, say it's VAs in 5 random countries or whatever, right? And they all get $20 each or something like that. There's so many different ways you could do it. My point being is I actually think they would sell more if they kept the charity as a part of it. I don't know if that's I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they sell more with the charity tag or less with the charity tag? Like as in like it's cheap. I guess they'd probably sell less if it was cheaper. I'm trying to think of that through.
I think even if they sold even if they just continually sold the CCU to VF7A, and just kept it as a charity.
Yep.
And maybe even rotated to charity every 6 months, or I don't know. But I don't care what charity, to be honest. It could be the RSPCA, and it wouldn't bother me. I don't really.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me.
Well, as we move into this Star Citizen stuff, because I've talked about this with a few different content creators in the past, right? You know how there's this, they don't want to play favorites with content creator stuff. I actually think it would be kind of cool, right? And I don't know how they'd go about this, right? So it might take them a little work, but it would raise them a little bit of money. Is if any content creator or even an org could submit like a skin. So if they had some kind of way to, you know what the unwraps are for models and stuff, Algared? So if you go into Photoshop and you take the color layer, or even just your logo or something like that, where you then submit it to CIG, someone at CIG just says yes or no, to check that it's safe or, to go in the game. You know what I'm talking about. And then they could then be sold and the money goes to charity. Right, and that wouldn't be playing favorites, because then anyone could do it. That's like an org or a content creator, because that would make a lot of money too. If you could turn around and you could wear a board gamer skin, you can wear Morphologist logo on the front of your Nox or anything like that. That would also show support for the streamer. They don't have to get any kickbacks for it at all. I know if we did it, we wouldn't be doing kickback. Well, yeah, it's free advertising. I know if you and I did it, we would give it all to a charity. But that might be a really cool what's the word? PR type of thing to do. And again, if everyone's included, it's not playing favorites. And again, if most of the work is done by the org or the content creator, and it's literally just someone looking at a picture and going yes or no, I know that means they have to get a staff member to do so. But again, couldn't that also just be done as a part of the normal email as it comes in type of thing, like as a part of the they have customer service. It could come into there, and they could divide it across all the people they have working there, because it is literally just a yes or no thing, and allow them to like you could probably only submit once like every month or something to limit the flow of it.
It is a possibility, but then you consider the number of orgs that there are. Now, imagine, and I'm sure you'll remember back to 2014 when they did the CIG logo, or the Star Citizen logo, made up of the little org logos.
Yep.
They put all the org logos and made them pixels, and then used that to create the Star Citizen or CIG logo. And that was back in 2014. And since then, there's been a plethora of orgs created.
Absolutely. But again, you can limit it to only the leader of that org can put it in, and they can only apply to put in.
Yeah, but it's still a plethora of orgs. So, but my problem with the F7A, my only real beef with the F7A upgrade and the fundraising is the fact that by not continuing the fundraising for it, even with all the problems it had, it actually inflated the price on the grey market, which doesn't aid the veterans at all. And if you brought it out and sold it all the time, it means that the funding is now going to, it kills the price on the grey market, but it also means anyone who buys it or anyone who has it is actually supporting the veterans.
I think the whole reason they stopped doing it, though, was it was just too much effort to have to transport the money around to different places and stuff, and it was too much work back then.
I think that's why I only had one.
So let me put this out there then. I would like to hear from other people, so like a statement, or you can put it on, so type question and then type statement or idea or something like that, but just make sure you got question so it comes through to me and Algared. An idea that you could possibly have that you think that would be good to help CIG raise money, right? Because they clearly need it for some reason. That they're, like Algared said, all the ideas that, or why do you think they need money? I don't think it's like the sky is falling, like some people claim, but I think it's pointing to the release of Squadron 42 is where I'm coming from, and I think Algared's correct on that as well. But yeah, any ideas or long-term ideas that you've had that you think that would add to the game? Like I know people talk about the whole paint system and making skins and all that type of stuff as well, but any new ideas too, you know, like the one I suggested with the LTI and Algared's saying the F7A and stuff like that. But yeah, is there any that you think that would yeah, especially they're really low-hanging fruit ones too. You know, I think there's probably a couple out there that they could probably do. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Robert JT, be quiet. You're gonna get in trouble. Right. He said land claims. He said.
Citizen Scott has a question. Citizen Scott says, just exactly how hyped are you about server meshing?
I don't know, Algared, have you jumped in? You're over Cardi, have you tried it?
I haven't tried it. I haven't had a chance to jump in and do that. It is the story of my life at the moment. It seems like my waking moments are not.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Being former game dev, testing can be an absolute slog, right? And I can tell you right now, Eva Cardi, from what I've seen and heard and all that type of stuff, it is like, you know, you get those people that complain about how buggy the PTU is. They would not survive Eva Cardi. No. Like there's even been versions of the first wave PTU or even ePTU that's been super crashy. You'll be in for 30 seconds and you get a 30k. But they need people to log in and get that data so they can solve the problem, you know? And we've also heard of them about people not getting in there enough for them to solve these issues, you know? So, yeah, we are essentially the QA team, and they've said that again and again for years, haven't they, Algared? So,
yeah. Look, and if you, how excited am I that they're getting to the point where they're testing server meshing? That's huge. That's one of the big things. That server meshing, as I understand it, really ties in with everything.
Yeah,
it links into jump points. It links into the quality of life in terms of not having to load all the information at the time when you put a ship or a building or a settlement. It means you don't have to have the whole ship being all the content of a ship being done, even if you can't see it. That's huge.
Real quick before it rolls off the screen, Jocko, you're going to put question in your question, but I did spot it. So he said, funding idea, selling rights to name ships that they don't normally allow for it. So what he's essentially saying is extending the naming system to more ships now. That's not a bad idea.
I think the naming system is going to go for all ships.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Again, it's a priority order type thing. Apparently, Lemming can talk. He's saying that, but I think he means he would like. Can I please talk? Yes, of course, Lemming, you can talk. What would you like to say?
You never need to ask. You just need to
just talk up
and just butt in, and you know how hard it can be.
You there, bud?
Hi, everyone. Do I sound okay today?
You're fine.
Okay, good. So I can talk about the Evo test last night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but it was like butter. I've played in Wave 3 test that didn't go as good as this did.
Yeah. I've heard things like it crashed on one server and the other server was totally fine and things like that. So they were deliberately crashing one to see what it was like on the other, and it was pretty seamless in parts. I did also hear that the jump point was kind of like out of bounds. But yeah, I don't know if you can talk to that or not, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was in the patch notes. I did not go to a jump point, I will say that.
Yep.
But things were responsive.
How many people would you say were on the server at the same time, so to speak? What was the cap, so to speak?
I didn't look.
Okay. Maybe for next time. Because I'm curious if it's just like two 100 servers essentially smashed together, and that's fine for static, you know, so that'll be kind of gives good baseline. But yeah. Did you notice any kind of like NPCs moving better or anything like that?
Yeah, all the NPCs that I interacted with were all moving good. I even went and got a beer from the bar, and that worked. But it was a fresh server, so this isn't the magic bullet, but this is definitely a step.
Yeah. So basically what you're telling me is that CIG have worked out how to put down the workers' revolution on Hurston. Oh, awesome. While standing on chairs. Old man Hurston approves of this step.
Mm.
Now, you don't try putting words in my mouth.
Mm.
Thank you, old man.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for that, Lemming. Appreciate it. Real quick before I go to the next question, though, Grim just made a statement that I think is a good one as well. He said actually, he's made a couple of statements here. I'll go back up to the one he said. He said a place. It was essentially like a personalized package system. So by buying multiple ships at the same time, it's like a customize your own package thing. That would be pretty easy to do as well. So it's just based on how much shit you add into your cart, it drives the price down. That's not a bad idea either.
No.
Because
I know many a whale, and I'm sure this is possibly why Grim's even raising it. Because he's in that category himself. But I know many would jump at that opportunity.
Yeah.
Wasn't that something that was offered when Concierge was originally introduced? Couldn't you have a custom pack made?
I think that was way back when they had more people, but I think if you did it now, it'd have to be integrated into the website. And again, packages like us, what do you look like? Almost like you'd want the percentage to rise as the dollar amount rised, and somewhere between 10 and 20%, because that you'd say that's on par with the packages at the moment. Yeah, somewhere between 10 and 20%.
Yep.
And if you go even further, then maybe it increases. But again, they would need to sit down with their financial people and work that out. But that should be not that hard to implement into that website. It's just that the more that's in there and the more the money goes up, you get a bigger discount, and then it's at a cap. So maybe it's 25, 30% or something.
Two things. With the packages, I know that way back in 2014, people who had bought the large packs were able to exchange things out and get things done. And that was with Chelsea and Alexa as the support. And they do that individually with people. They can't do that anymore. So it was kind of something they offered to those who had those big packs to help adjust it, to help modify them to suit what they've done. When they went digital, they were kind of trying to address some of the issues that people with those packs had been doing and trading out. But having a system on the website where you could do that, I think that would be golden. So And the second thing, it's a question for you, Lemming. This is from Citizen Scott, and I'm pulling it out early because it's directly to you. And it's, did you get a chance to test the crash recovery?
That was the thing. I was on for a long time. My server didn't crash.
So
So not a chance to test the crash recovery because your server was so good it didn't crash.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, I flew around. I probably played for about an hour. Maybe 2, and it was like a brand new fresh server. I wouldn't have even known that it was meshed with anything.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You're getting Pissball Peter roused. He's saying stable game. What the hell? So it's always going to be a part of that development where if you kind of look back, anyone that's been here for even in the last 2 years, like it's getting more and more stable as we go forward. But every time you add something, it breaks it. So look at this time last year with persistent entity streaming, totally broke the shit out of the game. I think it was around March, April, wasn't it, last year?
It was around.
So it just broke the shit out of it, and people lost their mind. Right. And so because people lost their mind, I remember like really big streamers, and I'm talking like 2,000-3,000 people that stream on the regular that were just sitting in queues, like bitching for 2 hours. And so that's why the EPTU's become a thing now, because it's designed for people like us that are in this every single day to play, not the people that turn up once a quarter just to try out the latest patch.
And it had to be done because the testing system wasn't working.
Yeah. And they didn't understand. They don't know.
I've said it time and time again, before they launched it, the PTU had been open to everybody. And they still couldn't get the numbers. If everyone had gone and played PTU, both problems that we experienced in live would have been found.
Well, that's
100% guarantee it.
The first kind of, I think, really recognizable one was the Pyro EPTU, right? The technical preview, as they call it, right? That allowed them to open and close it and test stuff as needed. And people were really hyped for Pyro, but like it gives you the same example. I don't know, Lemming, would you expect to see the same type of thing, like some kind of technical preview with this on its next step, or EPTU to you know, like not just open the floodgates and go live, like trickle it in, because that's what I'm expecting. But Lemming, speak for yourself.
Yeah, I think that when this goes to wave one, it will stay wave one for a while.
Yeah.
And that's not because they don't want people to test it. It's just that they will probably not want to just flat open the floodgates. Yeah. But who knows?
And I do think it will be very popular when the floodgates do finally open. You know, that you'll see streamers doing the whole my first time through the jump point stream, and like my first time to pyro and all that type of thing, because they didn't get to see that like we did. Because there is a difference between the people that are in this and the people that are here to entertain themselves. Like, if you guys are watching us now, I've said this before, you know, it's I think turning to people like us, hardcore community. That's why I asked that question about like if they need money, how do we help them raise it? We are the people that understand this game and what's going to move the needle, so to speak, and help them. And that's why I put that question out there. And I don't know if do you remember when in the LA office they used to have that LA office and that had the stream on the wall, Algared? I wonder if we've ever appeared there and there are people sitting in. You know, are they sitting in that LA kitchen and they're listening to you and I talk? I don't know if that's ever a thing, right? No. But I hope there's one time, maybe it's today, you know, and they're hearing this and going, oh. So that's why I ask questions like this. You never know when someone from CIG is listening and an idea goes out and they hear it and it gets put into stuff. Because like
someone and yeah.
We hear it time and time again where, oh, we got that idea from the community, or someone in the community gave us that idea. You hear it again and again. So, you know, they do listen. Right, and I think they listen a lot more than people ever give them credit for. You know, like every time something flares up, right, and it's real news, not manufactured bullshit, they do generally listen. Yeah.
Well, we know they listen. We know Chris trolls trolls all the websites in terms of, you know, wikis and you know all the not. Reddit, all that type of stuff. He trolls them. He pays attention to them and listens to them. He listens to, you know, he does. You have a look at what's happening on streamers and backers and what's happening in the game.
That is the one thing I'll say about, like, that came off really clear to me when I interviewed Chris, man, was, and I've said this to you before, you know what I'm going to say, he is just so passionate. It was nuts to see someone so in their own game and just like hyped to make this really cool thing, and it kind of makes a lot of sense because he's fundamentally been trying to make the same thing almost his entire career. And the one I think about is that letter after Cyberpunk came out. Do you remember the letter from the chairman? And he talked about how Cyberpunk kind of, and he goes, that won't happen to my game. Like, he was so determined, and I'm like, yeah, there's the Chris I know and love. You know, like
you'll remember even when we were talking to Sandy.
Yeah.
As Sandy said, you know, Chris was often, you know, he'll come home and he'll be sitting there coding.
Yeah,
coding for the game and doing, because that's one of these passions.
And the girls too.
Unwind.
The girls will give him shit about. Remember I think it was Sky was talking about them standing on chairs and shit. This sucks. And then he like went under this effort to try and get the guys off the chairs. And for the next couple of patches, there wasn't people on chairs, but then they came back again. It's just, you know.
And apparently, I hear that the criticism from Sky was not this sucks, fix your game. It was more colourful.
Yeah. Well, again, your family are your worst critics, right? So,
that's right.
You know, but they're gonna, like, your family will always tell you the shit that's kind of wrong. And I kind of like not that we're family to CIG, but we are some of their worst critics, as in the hardcore audience, right? Because we want to see this succeed. Right, and we can sit here and blow smoke up their ass, right? And I'll give you a thing that I used to get in trouble with this when I worked in game development, right? And again, it came from my bipolar stuff, right? But think it through from what I'm about to say and you'll understand, right? And I remember one day I walked up to this colleague of mine and she was asking me what I thought of this model, and I said, fix this, fix that, and then walked off. Apparently, she broke down in tears. And I had to sit down with her and talk to her as a part of the like QA, or not QA, what do you call it? Human resources or whatever. And I explained to her, I essentially, I am very blunt. And what I was saying was, if you fix that, and that, it's perfect, right? But I didn't say anything about how good it was. I didn't blow smoke over butt or anything like that. And I'm very well known. Like, people will just ask. I got very known for ask him, and he'll just bluntly tell you what is wrong with it, because a lot of people won't do that in real life. They'll just say, "Oh, that's amazing. That's the best thing I've ever seen." So people started coming to me after that incident, and they would ask me, and I got known for it. To just tell people very directly what they need to fix. And sometimes you need to hear that. Sometimes you need both. Sometimes you just need the feel goods. But we actually became a lot closer because of that. And yeah. But yeah, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need someone to kick you up the butt, and I think that's what Sky does. She kicks him up the butt, so to speak. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I also know that one of the things Sky liked to do was, well, I think she was doing one of the early interviews for
Doom Patrol.
Sorry,
Doom Patrol.
Yeah. When she was doing Doom Patrol and she was interviewed for that, she said, you know, one of the things she liked doing was playing Star Citizen.
I can only hope that Sandy and Chris give her acting tips, like how he gives her programming tips. He gives her acting tips, or because he was a director, so he'd have to. Yeah, surely.
You know full well that Chris has liked to go when he can to the studio.
Yeah.
You know, when he's recording. You know, and you know that they also like playing the game together. Like, not just necessarily Star Citizen, but they like having family time where they play the games together. It's so if you're wondering why Star Citizen is PG, that is also part of the reason why it'll be PG, because
family time,
family game. It's a game that a family could play together, and that multi-crew gameplay kind of lends itself into that aspect as well. So yeah, I know that's a weird excursive on the how hyped are we for server meshing question. It's ranged all over.
But it's a part of it.
But it all ties in with that the hype of server meshing.
It kind of server meshing's been this long time coming. Like, we've been hearing about for like the last 3 years, right? So as it comes in this year, it's just going to tie so many things in, right? We are clearly seeing a move now of the staff moving over as well. Like, that's why we've heard people moving in and out of the company in the last week or so. That's why. So yeah.
And Rusty Pigeon Gamer, thank you for becoming a member for 3 months. And his question linked to that is, are the new DC, the org or guild hub banks, so if it's Star Citizen?
So I think he's talking about, I don't get the DC thing, but you might have to spell that out a bit more. Get rid of the acronyms, Rusty, because I don't quite. But what I hear is the org banks and stuff. They talked about org hangers and stuff, so I've got to only imagine you'll get all the org stuff down the road. Absolutely. Distribution centers, are the new distribution centers the org or guild banks for SE? No, they're not. They are basically raids. And again, I think me and Algared have said this in another video. If you just start to think of the room system, and then the outer shell is a different container, you can start to see how that distribution center as a raid all of a sudden goes from in a building to in a space station to underground to on a ship. You can see it. It's essentially setting up the gameplay for a raid, and then that's the foundation of raids, and then you move out from that. So the way I'd kind of look at it is it's like a multi-crew mission. And that's the first one, and then you move out. Again, like we said in the very first, I think that we did with Space Tomato, was it not? That this year it became very clear to me that if last year was setting up Squadron 42 and the foundation of Squadron 42 and getting all that running, as we roll over now into Star Citizen, it's starting to set up the foundation of that multiplayer gameplay. And I think you'll see that as a theme through this year. All the and base building's a part of that, right? It's a really big part of a multiplayer game.
I think you definitely saw that even in the the tactical captain, the Inside Star Citizen episode with Idris.
Yep.
It was one of the things I said. We're now in the process of bringing it up so it can be for that multi-crew gameplay in the PU.
Yep.
As opposed to the Squadron 42 version, which is just single player. So, yeah, I think that's the case. I think one of the big advantages of server meshing is the fact that you don't have to stream every room in a ship or every room in an outpost, and have that information loaded straight away. And that's gonna.
I think you remember when they talked about ship interior culling?
Yep.
I think that'll come under the room system eventually,
Yeah.
and it'll be the same thing, right? And that'll have astronomical performance benefits. And I still, to this day, can't believe it's not a thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's
Well,
not.
I think it's not a thing because it is tied to server meshing
It's
down
tied.
the track.
Not so much. It's tied more to the multi. It's not so much needed for single player over multiplayer, because when
That's
it's in
right.
a single player, you can turn it off and on manually because you can kind of know where they're facing and stuff. It's not in a multiplayer environment. I get where you are right, but it's more multiplayer than.
Yeah. Oh, look, I know it's more technical than that, but I think it's really tied into that idea. It's not been taken out because you need it because there's so many people looking at different things at different angles, so you can't just on and off as you would in a single player game. But server meshing and that ability to do the room system linked to that.
Yeah. There's a first time chatter here that's saying, I'm struggling to read their name. Eagle 00, just the color, I've got the background, it's very hard to read. Eagle 013 says, Titan mech suits would be cool to see in distribution centers to help love cargo. I think Titan suits would be another great way to raise money, actually, ironically, if you think about it. But I think they're probably a little further down the road than we would ever care to admit, because it is fundamentally very different. It's akin to making, so you know how long it took the females to come into the game, so to speak? It's akin to that, right?
It's a brand new skeleton.
Yeah, well, yeah, essentially, because you have to make a skeleton. But not only that, when you make a vehicle, it's kind of like attaching 4 wheels that rotate. Legs move, arms move. It's not exactly the same. There's a more complicated movement system there. So it is more like a character. And then I also sit there, like I've said to you in the past, it's the priority. What do you get out of tight suits? You'll get a shit ton of money, right? That'll fund the game. So maybe we might see them sold this year. When they're coming is a different thing. But that's I don't know if you deliberately meant to do that, Eagle, but that is a really good idea. Like, sell Titan suits. You would make a shit ton of money.
Even if you sold, the Ripley's loader type thing.
Yep.
Because that would down the track help with loading of ships and the cargo, and even on a reclaimer where you're moving boxes, you're able to move a lot more. But I have a feeling for things like that, they've gone more down the line of tractor beams. But I'd love to see.
I think we'll see every version of them, and you and I know this. I always go back to that Caterpillar video when we went deep. So we did that. We did a Caterpillar deep dive, and it just bore so much through of all the shit we'd forgotten. They were talking about it in this video, and I guess we could go find the video, or someone might link the video. And they were talking about there's like literally like 3 of them are almost like 2 years apart, where they talk about all these modules with the Caterpillar and all these things come up in that video. And back then they weren't known as Titan suits; they called them exosuits. And they talked about like different types, like a loader one, like Algared talked about. But then they talked about like repair ones and combat ones and stuff like that. So eventually they are going to be like, if you wrap that into what we got here, they are another vehicle vein, right? But they're like the way I see them is they're like more of an indoor vehicle, right? And a bit like if you bring that World War II mentality around Algared, you know how you used to always see, like I always think of Saving Private Ryan, where they had troops on the ground protecting the tanks, but the tank was protecting the troops. It's a little bit like that. So they are deadly, but if you get close to that thing, you can kind of take it out. And I reckon they'll be like that.
The other thing from those episodes was things like the trolleys. The hovercraft trolleys were kind of even hinted at back then. And it took a long time for us to see those in game.
Yep. And that comes back to Titan Suits too, in a weird way. Different tech levels of trolleys. You will see different tech levels of vehicles and Titan suits. So, and I'm not saying this is how it's going to be, but I'm trying to give you an example. Imagine what a Drake Titan suit would be to an Origin Titan suit, right? So the Drake one might run on fuel. It's got bare gears. You can see the thing moving. It's got a lot of smoke coming out of it. It's highly detectable because of its pollution and stuff. Then you go to the Origin one, and it's all slick and high tech and runs on batteries. But there's pros and cons to both, because if the batteries run out, you don't have another fuel source. But if you happen to find another vehicle, you could probably jerry-rig some stuff into the Drake one. So you can, but the Drake one breaks more, runs out of fuel more often. So pros and cons.
I can also see other advantage. You'll get Titan suits that are more, using electrical impulses and others that are just using mechanical. And that means you use an EMP, the electrical one's shut down.
That's literally what I was saying, but you're just putting in words. Yeah, you're spot on.
So I can see that aspect as well, you know, so
the
differences.
So you talked about an EMP pulse. The inverse of that would be someone just running up with a crowbar and stuffing it in the leg of the mech, and the cog won't turn.
Or plucking the fuel cord out of the mech, so the fuel.
Or shooting the fuel tank on the back. You know?
Yeah. You know, so lots of different ways you could actually balance and change the tech of those different things. But it also ties in, like those mech boots.
Pisspoor.
In with.
Hang on. Pisspoor Seat said the Drake one would look like an Orc Raider from, you know, the how they look like a trash can and they're just
But it also goes into that talk from back then. Also ties into the talk about the snub ship that was used for, or is supposed to be, with the Reclaim.
Yeah.
Because of the language that they used to describe that ship for the Reclaim, it was totally different from the language they were using to talk about mech suits.
Absolutely.
And so you've got this disconnect. And when you look back at the language that we used then, it was the same language they're using to describe snub ships like the P-72, the P-52.
And you know, the one that really peed me off too was that really awesome opportunity that they gave up. They're called Titan suits. And then they took names like Atlas and stuff like that and gave them to generic ships.
Yeah.
Every Titan suit should have been a Titan. It would have been amazing. It would have just all worked so well, you know. So you go get.
They could still use it.
I do hope they have a lore. What do you call it? Retcon, like before release, and they change a lot of the names and kind of get things to line up so they sound cooler. And I hope that does happen. Just before release, they do a massive retcon. But it'd be really cool to you know, like I did have a name and I forgot it, but you know, like Gaia or something like that as the medical Titan suit or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, we do need to move on because we're about to question 3.
Yes.
After an hour.
Yes, I know.
All right.
So bad.
Kenji Leslie says a quote of Gandalf today, because server meshing testing means the dam is breaking. Is this what you guys are hinting at?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
I would certainly say even the thumbnail, the background.
That was
hinting at that as well.
Yeah, but I also think we're starting to move now to the big patch of the year. So we're rounding the corner on 322 and moving into 323, and we are. I think it might have even been Lemming that said this to me earlier in the week. At the end of CitizenCon, Lemming, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but I think it was you, said, you know, at the end of CitizenCon, Disco Lando said essentially we will not get any real new content for 6 months because he doesn't know what he's going to show us because we just showed everything at CitizenCon. And I think, Lemming, you said we were at about month 5. So yeah, we are rounding that corner now where we're, you know, that patches out and we're going to start seeing some new stuff. Because if you really think about it, the last 3 ISCs, they didn't really start doing ISC until February, which is unusual. Usually it's, you know, first week or 2 into January. So that was delayed. And if you actually really look at the ICs we've had, they're kind of extension of things that we've already seen. Like we've seen the Idris many times before, but it's just a bit more polished this time. The Master Blasters was really just the stuff at CitizenCon, and there was a couple of key pieces of information in there, but most of it was a repeat. So as we move into that new patch, we'll start to get, it's going to be more of the stuff we heard at CitizenCon, but finding it actually moving into Star Citizen now. Yeah, so yeah, it's 2 parts. Sorry.
Yep. Okay, next question. Based on the Idris event, boarding a capital ship is painful and outright destroying it is easier. 100%. Capturing a capital ship should be very, very difficult and hard, and destroying it outright should be significantly easier.
And this is the problem with me and Algared recording episodes on Wednesday, and then they come out the following Tuesday. That's all I'm going to say. Yep. Look forward to that. Our rants and raves about that event coming. Yep. That'll be the episode that you guys get this week. I think we called it "How Not to Do an Event." Is the yeah? Is
but what question goes. That's kind of the preface to the question. The where we're at. So, what are the reclaim times on the Idris and Javelin? Is it long enough to incentivize capturing one? And we don't know the reclaim times. But I get what you're saying. You want to have it balanced so that, okay, if you want people to be capturing them, you want the reclaim time to be...
We don't have those things in game yet. We don't have the components. We don't have armor. We don't have like again.
So much missing in terms of what we applied.
If you look at how the game fundamentally will function, a lot of the ships are driven through components. And they even, if you go back and look at the Idris video from yesterday, he talked about just how many components were through that thing where you can close down one section and another section will stay open, right? So eventually, if you close down the engines, it doesn't mean they're dead, but it does mean you could possibly board the back of the ship, and then you've got to start fighting your way through to get to another section.
It was certainly telling that he was indicating, what I heard is there are redundancies upon redundancies upon redundancies in that ship.
And
not out one thing.
It'll eventually become the time to kill will go up drastically, right? And basically what you'll be doing is disabling parts of the ship. So let's just take the engines, right? Because that's going to be a big one on a lot of ships. You'll disable the engines and then board it, make them dead in the water, and then board it to take it over. But then the other part of that, obviously, where it becomes different, is you will then have to repair it to get it the hell out of there. So it's not this simple process of, oh, I've just stolen your ship, ha 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 ha, like it is now, where you can literally just shoot some guy and...
We've got a tail away, repair, and so I hope the repair times are significantly higher. So the reclaim time should be high, but so should the repair time.
Yeah. So you gotta go, again, like how Algared always said, like we're always connecting dots. You've got to go back and connect all the dots. And it's very hard to hold all that knowledge in your head and kind of picture what the final game's going to be, even now. And even, Algared and I have always been building that in our head over time. But you can see what it's going to be. Like, engineering gameplay is coming down the line. They're talking about the components. That guy is going to be constantly repairing and rerouting power to keep the ship alive. And that's just before the engines go down, right? So that's how the time to kill's going up, right? So if he's got like 10 different ways he can restructure how to get power to the engines, and eventually you kill all of them, and then they replace some of them, and you kill all of those as well, you can see where this goes pretty quickly. It's going to drastically push up the time to kill, especially on bigger ships. I'd have to imagine it's going to be almost 10 times longer on a bigger ship, Algared.
Yeah, well, you may remember when the playthrough in Squadron where they were talking about the component being broken, they were doing a combat, and he got to the component he wanted to fix, and it was totally destroyed before he got there, the ship went dead. But if he had been able to repair that, the ship wouldn't have soft dev'd. It would have kept going. And so
you just remind me about all the stuff about spies and subcomponents too. Like they can sneak aboard a ship and set something up to stuff up the ship as well. So like you start to see where espionage comes in, like someone actually sneaking into an org, and there's a really big, like they've been nestled there for 6 months before they put a component in and stuff up one ship, and it makes the whole trickle down effect. You can see, they're gonna have 5 spies in place, and they all put a subcomponent in, and all those key ships go down at a very particular time. You can start to see like how integrated every little bit is. It's got many moving parts, and trying to hold that all in your head. I hope I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? Letting you visualize just how complicated this game's going to be with all the different components and all the different teams working together. And as soon as you can kind of even slightly understand that, that a single seat fighter that someone's sitting in is not the pinnacle of this game. The pinnacle of this game is massive teams working together. And it's not just, and it won't be just one Idris. It'll be the Idris that's working with the Javelin, that's working with all the smaller fighters, and there's a complete fleet, like a giant org, working with each other against another giant org. And then all of a sudden, it's a 4-way org fight or a 5-way org fight. You start to see very quickly how big some of these fights are going to be, and it's just going to be insanity. And there are going to be real repercussions. Like you may die and respawn into bed, get straight back out, get into a new ship and new armor. Like the consequences, there's going to be actual consequences to our actions. It's not going to be, I'm just in Call of Duty, this is round 47, I've just died, I respawn and shoot again. It's going to be, you're going to like winning that battle is going to actually have in-game consequences that carry over, and we're going to fight them in the skies. We're going to fight them in the trenches. What's that old Churchill quote? We fought them on. The way it's that
fighting on the beaches, the fields, etc., and we will not surrender. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be that, and it's going to be everywhere, and you're going to get people on the weekends that they're going to have these massive battles like the raids in World of Warcraft. That's going to be about weekend big battles on the weekend, and then during the week you're going to get all the people that kind of don't go to work or have got more free time. They're going to be out there doing their industrial gameplay and stuff like that, and at night the dad and the mum are going to come home and they're going to get on there and do a bit of their industrial stuff as well, all in preparation for these big, and I'm sure big fights will happen during the week as well, but the weekend is going to be those big battles, and it's going to be glorious. We're going to how would I put you, Algared? The episode 3 intro for Star Wars. That's what I've always envisioned for this game. I don't know if you've had a similar thing, but
yeah, I've got to admit, now that you mentioned that, I always wonder whether Synth World will ever be taken over by the military and turned into a Death Star. that's just a minor.
That's no moon.
Just a minor little.
And that's you hit on another point too, right? Is like all these events, like again connecting dots, like Xenothreat and dynamic events in all different places. Are they going to use events to drive war? Are they going to have, how big are these events? Are they localized to 5 people in a group? The entire server like Xenothreat in Stanton, and then there's another one over in Pyro. You start to see how dynamic this game. And if you go and connect the whole quest system together, no 2 quests are ever going to feel the same. Like they are going to generate. They're going to look at. They'll have enough tech savviness to go, this person loves doing this type of mission, and he's all of a sudden gone and done that type of mission. So how about we merge these 2 types together and stuff like that? They'll be able to, if they're recording everything we do, they'll be able to see trends and the things that we like and feed us more of what we like as well. So yeah, and it'll only improve with AI coming in as well.
I think we'll see that as they go along, and I think you can even see that in terms of the gameplay they've put in. Like, why have we got Jump Town as a recurring event? Because when the system was broken and Jump Town was there, it was very, very popular. Everyone was doing it. So
before this goes off the screen, says Glatrino says, but don't you think actual battles will be planned by orgs? Yeah, they can be planned, but they can also be forced. Right? So if they use the AI to move something in a very particular way, you could push one org onto another. They could force a fight. So if there's 2 big orgs and they've become too big and they're dominating the system, CIG's like, these guys are going to be thinned out, and
you suddenly cut the resource out, or one group's got a massive resource that's needed suddenly appearing in their things. So people are.
I've just thought of one about, so at the moment Helldivers 2 has this big map, and apparently one of their developers is like the overarching D&D what do you call that, game master or whatever, and he's orchestrating what's happening in that, right? And that came out during this week. It could be exactly the same thing. They have Dave Haddock and the lore team or whatever, whatever team they pick, and they are orchestrating a story.
Yeah.
One of the things you and I have talked about is if we just I'll let you talk on this because I've talked a fair bit recently, but the Soul versus Terra thing.
Yeah. So we've talked about in the past the government issues, and Soul is Earth, Terra is Soul is like Rome, and Terra is like Constantinople or modern day Istanbul. But in the Roman Empire, Constantine the Great moved the capital of Rome to Constantinople, or as he called it, because it enabled a Roman army to be able to get to the trouble spots really quickly. It had the best jump points, if you like. Terra has jump points that go all over the empire. Sol doesn't have as many good jump points. And so there's this whole argument that's going on at the moment. Should the government be moved to Terra, should it not? Now, I'm a terrorist. Sorry, I'm not a terrorist. I don't support terror. I don't support...
Someone clip that, please. Someone clip that. I need that as an emoji, a voice clip, everything. Pissball
Yeah,
Pete,
yeah.
clip that, clip
CIA
that,
knocking on
clip
the door
that.
next.
I want that as a soundbite on Pissball Pete's thing, so I can fan that Pete. That'd be great. I'm a terrorist. I'm a terrorist. I'm a terrorist.
I do not like terror. I'm a soulist. But part of that is just because of the way in which the law team has told the story of terror. But they keep wanting to secede. They're almost a southern states idea.
Yeah.
We have a right to secede. We have a right to do this. We have a right to do that. And I hate that. I'm opposed to that. Now,
But
Paul, on the other hand,
you can see very clearly, right? Just, I know I'm interjecting, but you can see very clearly people will want to defend their home system. That if you live somewhere and it's important to you, they're going to want to motivate you to do things like that. And so, again, like how you're talking about you and Paul being juxtaposed.
Paul is a terrorist. He supports terror.
Yeah.
He loves terror. You know, it's, of the systems, that's the one he likes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'll often call him a dirty terrorist.
Mm.
But it is that type of, that's just one of those areas, just one of those small areas where the government of the UEE is fractured at the moment. And
so to get back to Glatrino, he said, okay, I can see what you mean about territory infringement, etc. But as far as fleet battles, I can see Org surprising another with a large ship battle, seeming they need to be planned right. Yes, all of it will happen. That's what we're trying to say. Like it is connecting all those dots. Connecting all those dots, trying to see the bigger picture of this entire game is daunting as shit. There is just so much, right? And trying to hold the whole game in your head is rather hard. Even if you just take combat and you start to pull in every single piece of combat, it becomes drastically, insanely huge very quickly. And then you start to put all the industrial... It's a mammoth game.
I think down the track we will see, and I think not wanting to put words in Paul's mouth, but if you go to Paul's mouth after, we can ask him, do you think, I think there'll be a civil war between the UEE. I think there'll be, eventually, there's going to be the terrorist faction and the Solus faction.
I think the other part about what you said about not enough jump points in Sol is a very telling scenario of there possibly being a hidden one, and I'll leave it at that.
Yep. Yes, and, you know, we've been told in the past that the Vandal are going to sack Earth.
Yep.
Which kind of hints that there's a jump point that goes to Vandal space. That could also lead into why the headquarters of Earth suddenly goes to Terra, because Earth is right on the, or Sol is right on the front line. So there's lots of ways they can do this, but I actually think there will be a civil war at some point. I also think it's likely we'll see...
Algared, you're in trouble. I've just got a message from ASIO. They want to talk to you, mate. You're in big trouble about your terrorism stuff. You're in trouble now. ASIO is like the FBI, by the way, in Australia.
The FBI has been currently contacting ASIO and saying, look, what's this old man Hurston fella? I think we'll see...
Sorry, Mr. Tim. What's his name? Mr. Tim 4PC. We are talking all over the place. We started on I think we're only for like 4 questions in, and we've just branched and tangented all over the place.
This was an interest javelin question, by the way.
And it's ended up in law, but yeah. Sorry.
But I think we'll see another Tavaran war, which will be a Tavaran civil war, where the Tavaran actually decide, are they going to be part of the UEE, or are they going to go full-on rogue in terms of absolute...
And I think what you leading into things that I know that you've talked with other people, we don't have to talk about that, but we are going to affect that. Our player choice as a community, and that's why I mentioned the Helldivers, right? Because in Helldivers, if you do not liberate certain planets, so they essentially have robots and bugs, right? And if you don't help certain planets, that enemy will push in. So it's this constant push-pull between who are you pushing back the robots, or are you pushing that? And as they push backwards and forwards, the aliens, or essentially the bugs and the robots, will attack different planets. And so you've got to decide on many different things. Am I anti-bug, or am I anti-robot? Or am I just prefer this personal planet because it's a snow planet, or do I prefer this one because it's a dust planet? And it's really interesting because they put up this reward that was meant to last a week, and people were hating these defense missions, and so it failed because nobody wanted to do the defense missions because they were boring and shit. That's really quite funny. So the developers learned very quickly people don't like defense missions, and so now they shorten the time So instead of it being a week, they've shortened it to like 4 days, and then they've made it one very specific planet. So you've got to go to this one planet and help the shit out of it, or it's going to fail again. It's just, they're making it very dynamic, and I'm using that as an example because you can see them doing that in Star Citizen. They can spawn or create an event wherever they want, and put in random values so it never feels the same. That's why they're calling them dynamic events, because they can craft and build it the way they need,
and then put it in at X location or Y location
at any time. At any time.
I also get, going back to the whole Terra. I actually understand the value of having Terra as the key point. One of the things I disagree with Terra is Terra always tends to put forward the idea of where everyone's equal, but we're more equal than everyone else. It's very all
Animal Farm.
Yeah, very Animal Farm in their approach, and
I have no doubt, Algared, they will echo political things in the real world, like a lot of good art does. I have, they'll have teaching moments, they'll have lore moments, they'll have, things of beauty, things of horror. There'll be planets that you go to and they're constantly in war. They'll have multiple events all across the place. And
they've already got planets that are already at war.
Again, I think the game's so big you're going to get a taste of everything. And I think that's not just a forever game, so to speak, but a game that everyone may be able to find something in it they enjoy. So, you might be really combat savvy and like a Call of Duty player, like I said, and those matches that you do matter, but you might be just a fisherman, and you like to go out on
hunt down a fish,
and catch some alien fish. You might want to do farming, you might want to breed animals, and this is all stuff we haven't got into yet, but they're there. We've got agriculture ships, we know they're coming in.
I'm told sandworm larvae
absolutely
are the best bait.
They're what?
Sandworm larvae, best bait.
Good luck.
So you've got to go to the sandworm planet and from the larvae to get the best bait.
Yeah. So again, you can see the gamut of the game. Like you try and hold it all in your head, and it's just huge. And again, there'll be these key fundamentals, and I have no doubt over time, Algared, they're going to have to almost have specialists within Sci-G. Like, I am the salvage guy. I am as we know, they have a gameplay team in Frankfurt, right? But I think eventually over time, as these
gameplay teams that focus on particular areas, because they're so complex,
and you'll have almost like team leads, but then there'll be crossover. Like, so one of the ones me and Algared I've talked about before is like cooking in restaurants. Now, not only do you have to be a cook, but where do you source all your resources from? If you're a builder, and you can start to see very quickly, like a building's probably a better one actually, because you'd have natural resources that may come from animals and flora and fauna and stuff, but you also have like the mine goods and stuff like that. So you can already see how all the resources in the game feed into different areas.
And you can see that in the outposts, like some of the abandoned outposts are run by, we've got the windmills going, but windmills are cloth windmills.
Yep.
And so as the time goes on, you'd hopefully see better materials being used for those things. Anyway, we should move on.
Just real quick, Kurez is saying June. Yeah, absolutely. You'll have every planet of every description. And one of the people that opened my mind to that was Level Cap when he was on, and he was talking about they could literally just copy any game mode you have. So let's say Hunt Showdown or Tarkov or Call of Duty or whatever, is you can have a planet or region or moon or something that's just dedicated to that game mode. So when you go in there, there's some kind of scenario that's set up so you are literally like Hunt Showdown. They can do that. They can have the Battlefield 1942 planet where for some reason they're stuck in the Dark Ages and all the guns are older handcrafted guns or slingshots or whatever. Only melee weapons work on that planet. Right? You see it very quickly. Every scenario under the sun. They can't use planes on that planet or ships on that planet, so it's all tanks and all any combo you think of. And so you can go find your sweet spot in the universe. So yeah, just keep that up top. There's going to be so many different things. It's going to become a game within a game. And we haven't even got into jumping into the pods and virtually living historic events and shit like that as well. So yeah.
So related to that is the next question, which is, well, I think it's related. Next question is regional servers or one server?
Regional.
What are your thoughts?
Regional. It was never going to be a thing.
They're going to have to go. I think they originally want. I think they've even hinted at that or stated that.
The only game I've ever seen it that kind of even remotely is able to pull off one single shard was Eve. And let's be honest, Eve is kind of a very light game. You are flying around space, but you're not actually flying. You kind of click your mouse and it kind of moves there over time. So it's more of a positional game. It's not a movement game. So it's sending far less data. It is essentially going, I am at this point. I've clicked to go to this point, and I'm moving at this speed, so it can articulate and work it out on your end and the server's end, and it's sending far less information. Oh, and by the way, I'm shooting at that guy that's that point. So there's a lot less entity count. Now, we know for a fact a game like this has a much higher entity count, and therefore it wouldn't work globally.
Well, a classic difference between those two is on Eve, you are the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, whereas on Star Citizen, you're not. So, we will see massive battles, but we won't see massive battles on the scale that Eve has massive battles.
Yeah.
But there'll still be massive battles,
and
they'll still have major consequences, in my opinion.
They've also hinted at that you can go to other shards. So we can play here in Australia where it's, you know, but if I choose to up my ping, so to speak, I can go to the US server and play with my US mates. It's totally fine. But I'm going to be noticeably knowing I'll be playing with lag. And I think you'll notice it more on foot in FPS. Like, it's the same thing right now. If I go play Arena Commander and do FPS modes, I notice the lag a lot more than when I'm in a ship, because I'm not having as many, like, FPS needs a lot more entities thrown at you more frequently, essentially.
All right, so Citizen Ninja has a question to slightly change the topic a little. If 3.23 isn't coming until April, do you think CIG will release a new ship vehicle at Stella Fortuna? Or no new ship vehicle for the first quarter this year?
So there's two parts to this. Knowing they're working on Squadron 42 and moving teams over, it requires people to keep working on the ships. That's why we got a lot less ships at last year's Invictus. You'll notice Invictus was probably one of the shittiest lineups we had for Invictus. But by the same token, they were selling a lot of other things out of place, right? And I think that's why they had a bit of a funding problem last year. Now, so the question comes down to this, to answer the question, and I can't answer it, right? And either can Algared, is have they kept those people that are working on ships just working on ships, or are they also in all those meetings that are moving between Squadron to Star Citizen?
Yep.
Don't know.
Another thing linked to that is the Yellow Curtain.
Yep.
Those ships of the Yellow Curtain. We will get all of those ships plus more by the end of the year.
Yep.
Or in the following year. We know that some of those ships seem to have been worked on, so possibly. I would like to think they would, if they've got one ready. Yeah,
I would also expect something. Well, again, we usually say something military based at Invictus, but we've seen that rule completely broken last year with the links. That was something, like, if someone told me they were going to sell that and I was a betting man, I would have said no way. No way would they sell that at Invictus. But that's clearly all they had, so that's what they gave.
I think that even based on those skins for Stella Fortuna, we'll see those ships being sold.
Yeah, I agree. So the Hercules, the Razor, and the Fury. Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
They will be sold. And if they've been military ships, they will be sold. They'll be available. Yeah. Because they've got the skins. So they'll sell the ship plus the skins. They'll also sell CCUs, and they'll most likely be Warbond CCUs on those ships as well. Now, that's me guessing. I don't have any inside information on that, but that's me guessing based on what...
But going back to his question as in new ship, if I kind of lay out between... So Invictus will most likely March, April, May. We have an event in March. We have Invictus in May. I would say something in April would be where I would put it. Don't know what, but yeah. Apparently we're muted. I think that's on your end, Machiavelli, because I can hear Agro totally fine. So yeah, what ship we would see though first? That might be an interesting video, Agro. You and I.
What ship we think?
Yeah, almost what order do we think the ship? It'd be a total guess. But we could speculate and go through it. Yeah. But again, like I do have a hope for certain things, like like if I look militaristically at that the Yellow Curtain, as you call it, Agrid, I'd have to go Polaris and Legionnaire for Invictus. But is the Polaris ready? Who knows? You know, like we saw them, but we haven't seen it since CitizenCon. But do we really think in the 6 months since that they've been able to texture that? Possibly. It is a fairly big ship though, and I like going on previous track records. I would say no, but knowing how many people they're putting on it at the moment, it could be a yes as well. We just don't know the internal structure of those plans.
Indeed. Okay, moving on. Pissball Pete says, some community members were upset they didn't manage to see the Idris during this event. Yeah, I could understand that. I'd love to see the Idris.
Look forward to the video.
For
I let it known very loud. No, I ran. Algared's trying to hold me back. Let's put it that way.
I was trying to be very.
He's trying to be positive, and I was like, no, I want to put my foot down.
He was a cranky bugger. Let me put it that way.
I think it was the worst event they've ever done, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'll just say this:
such event. So here's the rest of the question: how would you improve such events in the future?
Watch the video
as many people as possible. And
yeah,
Tuesday's video literally covers that whole question.
That'll be Monday on the upover, but yeah, Tuesday for us.
Monday for you guys.
Yeah.
But literally is the question we deal with.
The little short thing I would say though is they learnt nothing from the F8 and made it worse. It like they told us they learnt everything from the F8. They didn't learn the right things then. Let's just put it that way. So hopefully they learn from this one. But yeah. Anyway, right, next one, Algared.
Okay, next question. Eviler and Yaroth.
Eviler Andy Roth.
Eviler Andy Roth. Okay, I'll take that. I heard some talk of a BMM releasing this year, even as soon as Alien Week. I thought Alien was next on the list, but have I missed some news of ship progress? I
heard you like to dress up in a clown suit and make balloons or animals out of balloons. People hear things. I haven't heard anything about the Banu Management. Have you heard anything about the Banu Management? People talk. That's all I'm gonna say. I rumors happen all the time and they get unchecked, but I haven't heard anything about the Banu Management. If I hear anything, I'll let you know. I think
it's a ship I think we're both looking forward to. So
absolutely,
it's one of those ships. It's sometimes there's a ship that you're not really into, and there is stuff out there. BMM is a ship we both like. It's a ship we both grabbed very early. It's a ship we're both looking forward to. For me, it ties in with a lot of the gameplay aspects I like, because I'm not necessarily a pew combat guy, and so. Yeah, but I haven't heard anything new. I've heard more on the Polaris and the Perseus and the family work they're doing there than anything on the BMM.
I think that's kind of something they learn too with like doing, because the BMM is like this one-off. I think that's kind of why they put people on it, because it was something they could work on before they got into the family stuff, because they kind of knew they were going to do it and then just it's kind of done. And I think that's the worst part about it being kind of half done is they have to come back and relearn all that stuff.
And because it was the team, a lot of the team moved on.
Yeah.
And the team just, they needed to retrain people, and I'd like to think that actually we get some more BMM, more Banu ships, not because we necessarily need them, but because having that family of ships would give the teams more experience in building those ships and help define that language for the race a lot more. But that's just me. That's wishful thinking on my part. But yeah, I haven't heard anything on a BMM. Citizen Scott, what will be a bigger step for CIG as a company and/or project as a whole? 4.0 MPU or Squadron 42 release?
That's a really, I think for us as players, it'll probably be server meshing, but I think for the company and the overall project, it would be Squadron, because all the money that's going to come in from Squadron, it's going to make them more financially stable. It's going to take a lot of the pressure off, especially the higher ups. They'll be a lot less stressful. Just getting it out the door, and some of the people that have been there for a long time, if they want to leave, now they can leave because they have a published game. There are some people, unfortunately, a little bit shackled to this project because they came in, as their very first game, and they don't have a ship game. So there is going to be a big turning of the tide, and if you're freaked out by like Todd Pappy and a few other people leaving, you're going to be a lot more freaked out when it ships, because there'll be a lot more people that move on. I have no doubt as well.
At some point.
And again, like you got to realize there's a lot of game devs that have been fired or moved on in the last 12 months. They're going to cycle around. They'll cycle into CIG. They'll cycle out again. It's very common. How many times have we seen them restructure? What, this must be the third or fourth time at this time where they've moved teams around, Algared, to your recollection. So we've seen it. I saw it when I worked in the industry. Hell, I got let go from one at one point. So it happens. It's just how it is.
Yeah. And you look at any industry, usually you've got a 2, 3, 4 year cycle. People work in an area and then move on.
Yeah.
We've got people working in the company for 9, 10 years.
Yeah.
Twice at this time. Now, that gives great stability, but it also means they may not be in challenge, but they may want more challenge. As the company changes, or you needed to move where you live, that might not be an option you've got, and so
actually
you're unable to.
On topic of this, actually, I the people that make Grand Theft Auto, like Rockstar, in the UK, they've changed their mind on letting people work from home. And there are people that have now got 6 weeks to move back to work in the offices, and they don't live anywhere near the offices. So they've literally got to move home within the next 6 weeks, or they lose their job.
It's interesting because, it's as if they are finally getting the scene that CIG talked about. Because when they were working from home, they were able to keep working, but you lost that connection of being able to just...
And that's why they want to move them back in, because they're not able to check what people are doing as much, and they can't... I think there's a certain thing about people that pay money. They want to actually make people sure they're getting the money they paid for with people, and they kind of can't tell how much work people are doing while they're at home. They kind of can't track them, so... Yeah.
But I think a bigger issue, for the gaming community, is that fact of, or game developers, and it may be the same in other workplaces as well, that ability to collab, that ability to slide up to someone's desk and say, hey, I'm looking at this, what do you think? It's a lot harder online. You can share screens and all the rest of it, but there's something that's lost online than when you're face to face.
You can even talk about that with me and you. It's very different. Like when it's a lot different when you and I are in person than when we're online, like right now, because it's just there's certain things that disappear. Like Algared's lag pisses off, and he's not as annoying then because he doesn't talk over me all the time or dropping out. Yeah, so it just naturally becomes a lot more personal. I was expecting to meet Algared and have him talk over me all the time, and then I met him in real life. He did talk over me once. So I was like, oh, so it's just lag. But that's just, it's just a small example, but yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
But that's just the trials and tribulations of having a dispersed workforce. Now, that's a great bonus, but it also comes with a consequence. And you want to have that balance. And it seems like,
I think Citizen Scott kind of sums it up really well. We're human beings. We build relations chemically. It's how babies bond and their parents and newborns even. And I think everyone can relate to the whole dating app type of thing at the moment. There's this whole disconnect where people are on machines trying to find people instead of going out there and finding people. I think that's another thing that a lot of people can relate to. And so many examples of it now. We are all living through these machines instead of going out there and living through each other. And I think it's only a plus, really. And I'm such a hardcore person, like I'm sure a lot of people are here when it comes to computers, but like little things in my life that I'm deliberately changing. And like, I don't go to self-checkout at the supermarket anymore. I always force myself, even when the line's longer, I will go through the checkout because it's this human interaction, and I hate how the machines guide me. I know it sounds really stupid, but I hate I have to put them on the scales all the time. And I feel like I'm working. Why am I working? Someone else can pack my bag. That's what they're here for. So, yeah.
Oh, not necessarily what they're here for, but I get what you're saying.
Or were there for, they were there for, it was called customer service. They were there to assist you and pack your bag because they know how to do it and you don't. And I don't know how to pack a bag for shit. Yeah.
Yep. And sometimes you'll see the way they pack the bag, and it's and it's a lot better than I would do. But I had to go I was shopping at Big W the other week, and all their they only had the automatic ones open. Everything else was shut.
I've noticed that.
If I didn't need to get that thing, I would have walked out.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot when I'm on the mainland. Like when I was in Melbourne once, I did. It was a Big W, and they literally had one person on a checkout, and then like 50 self-serve checkouts. I'm like, this is insane. So yeah, they've very much embraced it here in Australia.
My local often has both running, but this one time they only had the automated working, and I didn't need the thing I was after. I would have walked out.
It's really interesting. Late at night here, Woolworths turns off the humans and leaves the machines on, and Coles turns off the machines and leaves the humans on, so to speak. I find that very juxtapositional. That different companies have different stances, but mine would be obviously to leave the humans on. But yeah,
I'd have a person. Yeah. That's just me.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you guys think about that a little bit and see if that carries over to staffing and stuff like that. But yeah, we're losing our humanity a lot. Anyway, got deep here.
There is another question. The gym.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would help improve NPCs on some states over time. Your thoughts? Yes.
Yeah, I think we kind of went over that when it was mentioned, but yeah.
For Pete.
Yep.
Using citizens on silhouettes as a foundation, which of these vehicles do you think we could expect at Fleet Week in May?
We kind of went over that a little bit too, but yeah, I'd say Legionnaire or Polaris. But yeah. You would hope.
I think that's the episode we do when we're looking at what ships coming for Invictus.
Yeah. I linked out. I got a couple of ideas for shows.
Which was and that kind of what ships are coming in Invictus or what's coming is, I think, was one of them.
Yeah. But you'd have to hope that they're a military skew. But again, you can see last year they kind of broke that with the links. So you can only go by trends and things they've done before. But now knowing they've released the links, God, anything could be coming there. You just, But military sale, more than likely military ships. But yeah.
And I gotta admit, like they sold the links as the officer's kind of transport. But I would have still preferred to have some means where the officer could actually do stuff that related to his ship or fleet, but it just didn't seem to be there. So it just seemed to be a luxury cruising vehicle.
I think we'll know pretty quickly how quiet a year it's going to be or not. I think, and I've got to take the assumption, Algared, right? You feel, correct me if I'm wrong. Last year was dead quiet for ships, realistically speaking, as in new ships, right? They were all kind of small, right? But they're saying they showed that yellow curtain video or the ship silhouette video, as Pete called it, and showed off all the ships that are coming. That looks like there's a lot more coming than there was the previous year. So I'd have to hope that we're kind of back up to, they got more. I think that had a lot to do with the losing of the Banu Merchantman team, and they hired a lot more people. We know a lot of people at Montreal are now working on ship. That guy that did the Argo, he went up to work at Montreal, and they did the cutters and stuff like that. So there's probably more ships coming down the pipe because as that second team is now being established, and I'd hope they've probably even got more people now, and possibly even expanding those two teams, or even moving into a third team. Be interesting to see where that all goes. But if that's what they're tending to put out in the next 12 months and more, as you said, and it's exactly what they said, I have to assume that there's more shit coming this year than last year. Would you say?
100%. Have to hope. I'm just seeing if I can find.
What are you trying to find?
Well, if I can find the upgrade to the Legatus pack for last year, I can actually see how many ships actually came out. With my memory is the upgrade for the current year is quite expensive, which means either there's a
so again, and just looking at Invictus though, it was we only had one ship in that line. It was two vehicles and one ship, and the ship didn't even have a quantum drive, right? And then when you got the other one that came out was the Spirit series, and what was the big one? The Rastra. And I know there's one more I'm missing, but there was only like 6 of them across the entire year, and they were both at the sales. There was no real just ship dropped randomly in the middle of nowhere. It was just at the sales, and that was it. It was a very low hanging fruit year, but it was because of Squadron. Now we've round the corner on Squadron. I think we'll see an uptick again. And again, I think that's what they were trying to say at CitizenCon. We didn't do a lot this year. This is why, because the ship team numbers are dropped. But next year, woo boy, here's what's coming. You know, like that's kind of was. It was a revamp. That's what CitizenCon felt like for me as a whole, as in, yeah, we know this year's been shit, but look, guys, look what we've done and look what's coming. That's what that was. Yeah, for me anyway.
But yeah. So,
yeah, actually, that's true. Monster Avery says the Saulian. That was the other one. The one I missed. And apparently they're working on the Raelian this year. That might be on the cards for this year as well. I have to remember where they did. Someone will remember, but they mentioned something about the Raelian. I can't remember if it was straight after the Saulian or if it was after another. There was a ship in between that. But I know the Raelian's on the cards soon as well.
Talked about it, yeah.
Oh, what if that's coming for Alien Week? Holy shit!
That could be something.
Yeah. Well, remember how we thought the Santok Eye was coming at Invictus and it didn't come? Oh, that was the other one, Santok Eye. That was in December, wasn't it? Yeah. So there's a, but again, that's not a new one. That's a release one. But you get my whole point. There's release and new. But yeah. We love ships. We know you guys love ships because we can talk about them to the cows come home, and you guys love them.
Oh man, I love talking ship.
Yes,
there'll be times I'll be tired and someone will start talking ship, and I'm there an hour.
I brought up to Algared we shouldn't have called so we have these under a playlist called Infoline, these streams, and Algared and I talked about it, and he kind of wants to change it to Talking Ship, which I think is not a bad name. So we'll probably do that at some point.
I do like the name Talking Ship because it's just
it's double entendre if you know what else
double entendre there. You know, I like double entendres.
Yeah. All right, next one. What are we up to? Dijako. Yep. With looming price changes and economy balances coming in 323, do you expect CIG to adjust mining and trading profitably up from what they are to be more in line with salvage? I think they're going to adjust everything. It is these sweeping changes are stuff that's just sat there stagnant, and they've gone, wow, we've finally got time to actually start working on Star Citizen. These are all the things we've been planning to change for years, and I think you'll see, that they've not really been working on Star Citizen. They've had a skeleton crew on it for the whole time, and now you're going to see these massive changes coming in. That's why we've talked about this breaking in the dam for ages, because it's going to look like fundamentally the amount of work you've seen on Star Citizen is a shadow of what's about to come. That was the pretty lights to keep us entertained while they worked on Squadron 42, and now they're actually going to start working on Star Citizen and Episode 2. And so you'll see way more movement than you've ever seen before. You know, you'll see a lot more gameplay come in. All those things that they talked about last year, like hacking and medical and all those things that have just been kicked down the road, you'll see them come in. After 323, obviously, because 323's got it's got the rollover, and we'll still continue to see more stuff roll over, but then we'll see a whole bunch of new stuff too that they've talked about, like the medical and and stuff like that. You've got raids coming in. There's another example. Again, foundational multiplayer stuff this year is what you'll see coming to Star Citizen, and then it'll all almost like the way I kind of visualize is almost like a flower opening, and you'll have the petals come out, but then petals within petals, if you can kind of visualize that as they break out into more and more different gameplay areas. But they very much like their tools, and they very much like their foundational stuff, don't they, Algared? And then they,
and they build the tools, build all the stuff behind the scenes, and then they go, and it's a breakout.
And so when they finally do get around to rolling out planets, for example, you get these people like, 10 years, one system. You guys know, I'm telling you what you already know, but like they redid Stanton in, was it 2.5 months with 3 people, right?
Yep.
They've got over 200 plus people working at behavior. Just let's say only 50 of them are working on planets. That's all of them done in less than 2 years. And that's to 100 of them, right? And that's just procedurally generating them and rolling them out and making sure they're at work. Obviously, the time that really takes it is landing zones, but we know Stanton is a different type of thing where there's only meant to be only Ruin Station was meant to be the major landing zone for Pyro, and then the rest were just normal stations, right? So you can clearly see very quickly you could have one team working on building that major landing zone, and that's custom, but they're also moving towards procedural generation on that even. Algorithm. We heard about them talking about procedurally generating the buildings, you know, the different levels and all that. You know what I was talking about, right? As time goes on, they're going to bring more and more procedural generation in, and then going back in. And I think the original plan, you correct me if I'm wrong, algorithm was like 70-30, 80-20, procedurally generated, and then little key pieces to change over. But again, you and I have talked about this in the past. Why can't they build procedural on procedural? And say the example I gave at the time was a statue. So you can have a statue and it's made out of different things, and it's modeled out of different pieces, male, female, animals, that type of thing, and you can mix and match. And so that statue can generate a character and look like, someone just generates a statue and then someone writes a bit of lore to go with it, but the statue feels different. And not every landing zone needs to have a statue. You know what I mean? So again, as they build on these libraries over time, these libraries will just fill out and become, you might get a really basic snow planet, right? But the next one adds ice. So you then have ice and snow to work with. And you get my point. The planets will just keep adding to these libraries, and they're just going to have these massive procedural libraries to just expand out and out and out. And eventually, over time, they'll probably be able to switch to the point where all they need is procedural. They don't need the custom stuff, because they can, if they build those tools in. Yeah, I don't know. It really depends on how deep the game gets.
Yep.
It really depends on how deep it gets.
Even though we say last year was a very quiet year, the ships and vehicles that were added were the Cutlass Rambler, the Cutter Rambler, the Cutter Scout, the Sulian, the Fury MX, the Fury LX, the Arastra, the Lynx, the Scorpius Arasta, the Zeus.
Did you mean the Scorpius Antares? Scorpius Antares?
Right? Did I say what?
You said Scorpius something else. But...
Scorpius Antares, yep. The Zeus variants and the Storm. So even though we say it was an empty year, there was still quite a bit that came out.
You say added.
Ships.
You say added, but some of those were released and some of those were concepts. So it's a little grayer than that. I'd say it's
put into game. It was reduced, but but in terms of what they were putting out, and in terms of sales, there were no real big ships that came out, and that was that kind of added to that feeling of it being a very, very quiet year. But going live, it was limited, but anyway.
All right. Real quick, I do want to have a quick look at this Algared. I have not looked at this in a week. Algared can see what I'm doing. You guys can't. Give me a second. Oh, god damn it. So what I'm
stream.
Sorry, Algared?
I looked at it just before the stream.
Oh, did you? What are we up to? Oh, we've almost
about 570.
We've almost cracked 600 if I can hit the right button. So this is the GoFundMe. We are currently up to 573. And I think the first stretch goes to 3,000. So this is we're up to for CitizenCon. So if you guys are going to CitizenCon and you would like to meet me and Algared, this is just a necessary evil because of how far me and Algared are going to travel. We also want to get some bit of camera gear as well. And it goes in, it explains why this costs so much and stuff like that. But yeah, I literally can't afford it because this is essentially my job, what I do here. But
and if we don't stream, like if we go and we don't stream, we lose as much as we don't do this for the income because it doesn't pay bills, but
that is the biggest revenue of the year.
Yeah.
So CitizenCon last year, we made more money in those 2 days than we did in the rest of the year, combined.
We're not saying we want money, but it's always nice, and it does help replace our equipment. Like even I've had to replace equipment since I've been streaming.
Yep.
And I know that I'm getting to the point where my camera will soon. Need updating.
And your computer too is at that point too.
Yeah, my computer is getting close to 7-8 years old now, so it's getting to that point where I'll need to upgrade it.
But anyway, so we're going to talk about this probably once a week, just to keep you guys reminded. But again, you don't have to donate if you don't want to. It's not a necessary thing. But again, if we don't get to those funding goals, we just won't be going.
We're going for a holiday.
Well, I know you're putting some of your own money in, so you're going. You were intending to go beyond CitizenCon.
I'm hoping, it's still.
Yeah, but I can't go if I if I don't get help, I can't go. So at the very least, we'll probably have Algared there, and he'll probably tell us about it. But he's not going to sit there and work if he's paying for himself to go.
We're there working. That's basically the difference. As going and enjoying the event, or going and trying to make sure we're putting up and putting up.
And just to show you how expensive, Paul's already told me he's not going now. It's too expensive for him, and it's like half the price for him to go as well. So, but we got a lot of people saying to us last year they want us to go, but this is why we don't go, because it's. And by the way, just to put it in perspective, this is actually about $1,500 more expensive than going to LA. If we'd gone to LA, it would have been about $2,000, not $3,500. So yeah.
And in fairness, the only reason we actually put this up is because so many of you guys were saying last year, do GoFundMe.
That's why we did the polls as well.
Let us help you let us get you to CitizenCon.
Yeah. So
no. But anyway, that's why we've decided to do it. And if it does go ahead, it's work. It is not a holiday. It is not a break. It is not mixing. It's not the idea. So.
Yeah, so we'll look at that like once a week, maybe very briefly like that, but we're not going to harp onto you guys too much. But if you want us to go, we need help, especially me, because I don't work, so yeah.
Matt P, I'm not sure of the context of your question, Matt. Matt P. Sorry, Matt P's question is a follow up to the question about his CCU.
Then melt it. Yeah, just melt the Mustang, buy another LTI token that has LTI on it, and upgrade. And trying to think that you're probably more than likely it'll be at Invictus. There'll be some kind of LTI token. That would probably be your
LTI token patch. If there's a new small ship that comes out, it'll almost guarantee that it'll have a game pack with it. Grab a game pack with LTI and then then Bob's your uncle.
Actually, that's probably not a bad idea. That Pulse Mirai bike might be where you see that as well at Invictus. Lemming just pointed that out to me. He said bike soon.
That's what I'd be waiting for. I'd be waiting for. I wouldn't melt that.
Or can someone be really nice and give him a referral in chat? Is that still on, Lemming? Speak if you can hear me, Lemming. The bike referral or is that gone? The one that's gone. Damn, it ended. Because that's the best referral they ever had. And someone went out of the way to get me one of those, actually. So I actually got it. It comes with all that armor and the dragonfly. So that could be another way, is if you've got a friend, refer them when one of those referrals are on, and you'll get like a dragonfly with LTI or whatever the ship is. And you can upgrade. I think the only time that's never been a ship was when they did the armor set, and that was the worst one they've ever done. And they learned from that pretty quickly. So because the very next one was armor set and dragonfly. So,
and obviously they learned. But yeah, so I wouldn't melt your starter pack until you actually you've got a replacement in the works.
Yeah, so don't melt it today. Hold off until you've got the LTI pack, so you can just switch over.
But that will stop you getting
no, I just realized he can't melt that package because he needs the game pack.
That's right.
Damn. Yeah, you're gonna have to buy a second one. Just keep that as your game package.
Keep that as your game pack. If you wait until Invictus and a new ship and the Pulse Mirai bike comes out and it's got a game pack with it, you could melt that, but you're still gonna have to buy the new ship, and you'd have to buy it. If you want LTI, it'll have to be a cash purchase. So, it is a quandary. I'm not sure how you get around it, unless there's other ways. Is possibly if there's someone who's got a starter pack with LTI on it that they'd be willing to part with and send your way. That's another way you could get around it. But yeah, it's the only thing I can say as a compensation for you is that if you don't have to put if you've got credits, buy your CCUs with credits. And B, LTI is not a game breaker. It shouldn't be a game breaker. It's just the same as ship hull insurance. You'll be able to buy that and upgrade that as you go.
All right. Pissball Pete says, if you could borrow any spaceship from any franchise and dump it into Star Citizen, which would you choose and why? That's gonna make me think for a little while. Because I gotta sit here and go, what's my favorite spaceship of all time?
Yeah, I can't say a favorite ship of all time. My initial thought was the Star Fury from Babylon 5, or the Babylon 5 Earth Destroyers with the rotating gravity generation. But that stuff is not needed because that'd be old tech for us.
I already think of things like the Nostromo and the Reclaimer. That's probably partially why Reclaimer's my favorite ship. But there's a lot of great ships out there, you know. Like we've got a lot of kind of tips the hat to a lot more area, like the Carrack and the stuff, you know, and the Enterprise. And
there was I think a TV show ages ago, which was about a garbage scow. I think it was Quark or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was about a garbage scow, crappy ship, absolutely useless.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't mind.
I can't really think of a franchise or a style of ship that's not really kind of covered right now. Like you know, like junker ships in Drake, and then high end luxury ship in Origin, and I'm just trying to think of one, and I just every time I think of something, it's like, well, they've already got something adjacent to that, and that's what I just keep coming back on.
You know, someone said Red Dwarf. That was also another one I was thinking of, and even the bug in Red Dwarf. But the bug in Red Dwarf looks very similar, in my opinion, to the Halay.
Yeah. So, a lot of people are saying the Millennium Falcon, and that's kind of what the MSR was meant to be, but I just think they fail at the implementation of that, and I do think that'll come around and get fixed eventually.
Yeah, I think you got that image of a Millennium Falcon. That's why you had, you know, the characters, and the Banu is kind of the Wookiee.
I've just realized I've missed a couple of subs on Twitch in our conversation. Hang on. So, tier 1 sub for subscribe for 2 months from Stacy Bertrain. I missed that. Sorry, man. I'm going to go back up now and see if I missed any others because I've not been paying attention to chat today. No, just the one. If I missed another one, I do apologize. Feel free to scream at me in DMs and I will talk. Oh, there we go. Womble Sims subscribed at tier 1. They've subbed for 4 months and currently on a 4-month streak. Thank you both for those subscriptions, man. I'm been really off the board. That's all that I can find. I went all the way back to the start of today. So,
apologies if they were missed.
Yeah, apologies. I'm usually on that, but I've been a little bit space brain today. The other ship that I think of that I really enjoyed, speaking of Star Wars, was the Razor Crest, and that's very similar to a Cutlass, though.
Yeah, designed by the same person.
Yeah. Well, even he also designed the Reliance, and then he made Ahsoka's ship, and they are always freaking identical. So yeah. There's a lot of cool ships out there. I think for me, asymmetry has been a big one across the board for me, and a lot of the alien stuff, like truly alien designs, where I think that's kind of a part of the Star Wars ship appeal. Is a lot of them have this. They're a little bit like Mirai. They're kind of like this alien-human hybrid, and I think that's why Mirai will be really popular when they do some of the bigger ones. Now, right now, we've kind of got the Fury, the Razor, and this bigger Fury, but when they get out into some of the, you know, like a whole sea-size ship or something like that, then I think we're going to see this stuff where people go, oh my, I want that shit.
And it's often hard to pick the franchise because a lot of the concept designers or concept art designers are guys who have worked on Star Wars and Star Trek and Babylon 5 and the franchises. And so the flavor of those franchises is already in the game, like in a lot of the old ships. And so to try and pick that one ship, you go, well, as you said, you know, the Nostromo, that's really the Reclaimer. So it is hard. I suppose I've always thought that I'd like a Star Trekking ship, but I actually think the Idris is the best Star Trek, is the best Enterprise ship because it's got the big crew, it's got the fighters, it's got the other stuff, and it can go exploring. So, have
you ever seen something like this? Agrid's seeing what I'm doing here, and I'll open up on screen in a second. But I want to open this up. Oh god, I can't even zoom in. Or can I? Nope, that is a very, very blurry one.
Well, while you're doing that,
Waffleportia
answered Matt and says if you bought a package with credit, no matter what you do, it's not going to be giftable. If you're after LTI, then you might, that's a different kettle of fish, and you may find things. But yeah,
he's come to the same conclusion as us. Right. So what?
I think in the long run, Matt, you're going to be wanting to, if you're wanting to be giftable, you're going to want to melt that pack and rebuy, and then use. And that's the thing. If you've got a pack with LTI, you can use credit CCUs to move up a chain. You just won't get those discounts from or bond CCUs. So,
so this is an image that is fairly old now, and this kind of has been around since the Vandal ship scale images. But this is like every sci-fi franchise up until like 2010 or something like that, in one image, and it's actually insanely huge. So you can actually zoom in and see all these giant ships as they scale to each other and stuff like that. And it's just, some of them are crazy huge, and some of them, like this is the one from Independence Day. You've even got. Do you remember this one, Algared? Titan AE. Do you remember that one?
I do
Some
remember.
people, if you've never seen Titan AE, awesome movie. You need to go watch it. It is amazingly awesome.
Classic.
Yeah, made by Fox, and kind of destroyed by Disney. But there's a whole story there if you want to go find it out. But yeah. So this is just kind of cool because it gives you a gamut of ball. There we go. An alien race that has cubes and spheres. That could be a thing. This is the one from Star Trek. Very Romulan, different.
Yeah, the mining ship.
These are ships from Eve. So there's a whole gamut of different styles in here. And we know that they go look at things like this, and they get real world references and stuff like that. Like when they looked at Argo, they were looking at a lot of the excavator and piston stuff.
Yep.
Like I remember that episode with the references.
Yep.
So yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Algared, or is this just a cool image to look at?
It's such a choice of ships out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to pick, but
I think I'll drop this as a link in both. So there it is in that. So you guys can have a look on your own time, but it is just kind of interesting to see all the different ships people come up with years. And you got to remember, this is 10 years old now, so there's probably another image this big again.
Another equal number.
Yeah. So
how much do you predict each of the Hornet prices will increase? This is from Citizen Scott.
Roughly as much as the Super Hornet went up. And I think that was, don't quote me, I think it was $10. If Lemming was here, I'd ask him again.
I can't remember how much the Super Hornet went up, but I'd expect a similar.
If anyone knows in chat, just let us know. I think it was $10 from memory, but
something like that.
Yeah.
But that's how much I'd expect them to go up.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. CIG don't tell me their pricing schedules. Went up $5 apparently. There you go.
Hook 2005, does it have the original Flash Gordon ship? Have a look. It's like, where's Wally of Find My Spaceship on that thing? And there is a lot on there, like some really obscure things. Like when I saw the Titan A ship on there, I was like, whoa, that made the cut. Like, so there's a lot on there, and it's very, very old. In fact, someone has, the ones where they show the video Algared and they show all the different sizes of ships and stuff. And someone's done that with that image, and it goes for like an hour. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I think I saw that once.
Yeah.
I kind of half fell asleep. It was one of those brain dead video watching episodes you do occasionally.
But that type of thing you can have running in the background anyway. So yeah.
Rusty Pigeon Gaming says, what do you think of getting a marking on your channel for validation of your channel gives correct information? These are more channels covering Star Citizen to give false information.
Is it like a CIG mark or a mark from YouTube?
What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't quite understand the question.
So it's like a stamp of approval saying these guys give proper information.
We've never actually ever had CIG talk about us directly. So I don't know. I don't know what CIG really thinks of us. So yeah, I don't know. Love us, hate us. Don't know.
We've had Sandy and Dave Haddock on here and in Law Citizen podcast.
Can't be that bad then, can we? So yeah, I don't know if they reach out to us and
about the only indication we've got of
I
what
think
they
we
make.
had the marketing team sent word to Paul once to let us know that he liked what we did with the CCUs. I think that was the only other
Yep,
one I can think
that's
of.
all we know.
But yeah.
So we know they have at least watched us.
Well, we're on their kind of partner program. They give us ships to give away, so we can't be that bad,
Yep.
you know. So I don't know.
But,
It's not something
yeah.
I've really been concerned about. It's always great to get recognition, but
And
not why I do this.
It'd be great to have a thing that says these guys are vetted as giving good information. The problem is
They don't
what
play
happens
favorites,
is,
do you?
we're talking one day and we give wrong information.
Yeah.
It can happen because we're going on. We don't get inside information. We use information that you guys, that everyone else. We just delve deeper.
And we remember things, and things change. Like the example I think I gave this only a month or so ago was the Connie, the MSR, and the Corsair all had the same cargo amount, and then we were talking about it, and then someone corrected us in the comments.
Yeah, and they said nothing, and it was like,
yeah, and it had changed. And we are going to start to get more and more things wrong because things are changing as they roll over. I reckon this year we're going to get more things wrong than we've ever got wrong before as they move in and change things. And that's why we kind of moved, probably 2 years ago, we moved from the stance of correcting people to checking that we are wrong. And if we are wrong, we are happy for you guys to call us on it, because at the end of the day, we all just want to get the correct information. I think that's the best way to be. I'm just take our egos out of it. I don't, like, Algared doesn't have an ego. I don't really have an ego. And I think most of the community is pretty chill anyway. So let's just get the correct information. That's my stance on it. And I think, Algared, you agree?
Yeah, like I've often, I've often said I don't mind being wrong.
Yeah.
I want the discussion.
Yeah. It creates discussion.
I
In between me and Algared, when we have a heated debate, it's interesting. You learn. That's how you learn, Algared, don't you? You got to prepared to be wrong to learn.
Yeah, you got to take the gamble. If you don't, if you only ever coast in those areas where you're comfortable, you never learn.
Yeah. Lemming just said in Twitch chat, he has all the ego. You know, Lemming, he doesn't have any ego.
Yeah.
Well, he's got less than me and Algared combined. Yeah.
Matt Sully says, idea, sell armor that looks like bionic body parts.
Oh, like the cyborg limbs and stuff. Yes, that would be popular. If they could sell cosmetic cybernetic limbs that would then turn into ones that you could apply to yourself when you're that would work. You'd make money on that shit.
Although, that I think down the track that's going to come in with the regeneration tech, where the damage was so great that that part has to be replaced.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, but ahead of time, you can buy an arm, and then when you don't just put it on, like now it's cosmetic, right? You can just put it on so it looks cool. But when the full game comes out, when you actually lose your arm, you've pre-brought one that you can put on.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think anything like that would sell. I think.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm not an armor guy, but those types of things, the look sometimes, things that look specifically different will occasionally get you. But yeah,
I can see it now. Old man Hurston walking around with a peg leg, and it's like a it's a skull. Listen, let me finish. It's a skull. It's an Uwu girl skull at the bottom that he trod on. He just like hoops around on their head the whole way. You know, like all these little cyborg eyes, arms, enhancements, like even with EVA coming back in, different backpacks and stuff like that, you could see that. Different weapon sets that they could sell. We know they make a lot of money off the cosmetics, which is why the paint systems never come in. It will eventually. We all know that they will bring that in as a thing. It's just that if they clearly need money now, they are trying to get to the release of Squadron, because once they get the Squadron, I don't think they'll be worried for money. I think they're going to make a killing off this game. If it is as good and all right, let me put it this way: how people are talking about the flight model at the moment. If you leave the flight model how it is and it's only for the top end of town, you literally rule out most of the people. Not and I can't. I think it was Darklaw was in a chat with Expat, and me and Expat Darklaw were in Expat's chat, and he literally said it's literally like 3.5, was it 0.35% of the entire player base or some shit like that, right? That are worried about the changes. And again, It's nothing. You've got to appeal to the masses with this thing, and I'm sorry, but you miss out.
I've seen videos where developers and others have talked about the PvP versus the PvE, and have said if you only go PvP, you kill the game.
Yep.
Because the PvE crowd are actually the crowd that actually they're bigger and they fund everything else.
Yep.
So if you ostracize them, you kill the game.
I think in almost every game I've ever played, the games that survive are the ones that appeal to the most people. It's just that simple.
And so game developers try to push that line. And if it only appeals to one group, it becomes a very niche, very small community. And often the game dies and it's only survived by being on private pirate servers.
A very smart man once said, Algared, that is smarter than both you and me, once said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And I live by that.
Yeah.
In almost every aspect of my life. Yeah.
And it ties in with, the things that I know Star Citizen is going to have aspects of the game that I hate.
Yep. But you need that to appeal to so many people, do you not? Yep. And I think that's that line that you said comes from Space. That's something he said that was very profound. And when I say Space, I'm paraphrasing Space to Banu, but every Inforunner's had an effect on another Inforunner in some way, and that's just like a key thing that he once said, and it resonated with all of us.
I've seen shows where developers have talked that idea as well.
Yeah,
of the need of PvP versus PvE, and you've got to balance them. And if you just do PvE, you kill off that kind of competition aspect.
Yeah.
If you only go the competition aspect, you end up killing the PvE aspect, and you've got to get that balance to appeal to the mass, so that you have the support. And the longer you can do it, and the more the game becomes ingrained, the better it is. Some games do well and some don't.
Yeah, and I think you kind of, in a game like this, where it's this massively huge world, I think there will still be places where they can have their PvE. You remember I was talking about scenarios and stuff?
Yep.
Why can't you have gladiatorial arenas, essentially, that are these showdowns, and they're fighting for glory or whatever, and that's where your duelists go. If you want that really hardcore experience, put them in that hardcore experience, and there's no reason that in that arena the flight system changes, or they're in certain special ships that just go astronomically fast, right? But there are also engine problems with them going that fast, and I think I have to what certain content creators have said that are even for and against this, right, is go into master modes and try it out for yourself. Now, I went into master modes during the week, and I can't remember the gentleman that joined me, but I put it out in our chat, and one guy joined me, and I do want to call him out because he helped me out a fair bit. What was his name? Oh, I've got the streaming mode on, so it's blocking all the stuff. But the gentleman knows who he is. I'll leave it in the comments or something like that. But we went through, and the first time I piloted the Connie and he was in the turret, and then the second time he went in the Super Hornet and I was in the turret of the Super Hornet, and it was so much fun, and so much more cinematic than I've noticed before. Now, it's still got some issues, obviously, right? But the noticeable thing was I wasn't shooting at this tiny square or speck or dot way off in the distance. I was shooting at this ship that I could see that we've got these highly detailed ships. Show the shit off. Right, and again,
desire, isn't it? Like Chris has always said, he wanted to slow the game down because we've spent all this time building these ships and they look awesome, and he wants you to see you like candy.
And when they explode and stuff, you could see them explode. It wasn't this the squares disappeared and then you fly up and there's all this junk here. You actually saw it kind of break up, and you saw the cool explosions and stuff like that. And you'd even hear that faint doof, like explosion sound and stuff.
A Mozzie Zapper where it just it was
so all that work that you want to see that, and it made it more accessible. All the stuff that I've been reading about master modes is people are generally having a much better time. There was a really cool post that I actually saved, but I think I closed it last night before I went to bed. And there was a guy on Reddit, and he literally talks about, I am a master modes convert. He literally was saying that he didn't want it to change. He's a hardcore PvPer, but he sees why it's so much more appealing because it appeals to so much more people. You have to be able to stand back and look at this, not for yourself, but for the entire group of people that will play this game, and you can instantly then see why they're doing what they're doing. and I still think you can have your cake and eat it too. But these hardcore PvP players, from what I can ascertain, they want to rule the roost across the board and essentially feel like they're immortal. And that's what Dark Lord said. He said they want to be immortal. They want to be able to just go anywhere and dominate anywhere. And I don't think that should be the case. I think everyone's got to have a fun segment in this game.
Yep.
And if they're at the top just shitting down on everyone, it's not going to be fun. But if they can go to a certain space and rule the roost in that corner, go nuts. I got no problem with that. And I think that's why we're having low, medium, and high security space as well. So if you don't like PvP, you can lessen how much PvP interaction you have. You're never going to be able to remove it in a massive MM environment, but you can definitely pull it down to a lot less. And again, if they come over and rain on your parade, they're going to get punished as well for raining on your parade. So when you do lose that whole sea of cargo or whatever it is that you lose, they're going to have the whole, UEE jump down on them, and they're going to lose all this shit as well. So yeah, and you got insurance and things like that to lessen it.
All right. So Casa Black, Heather Gaming says, question, ideas. Physical merch is severely underrepresented. Clothing for each brand or more ship clothing variation, more collectibles, in-game armor or colored themed matching tools, etc. armor. The physical merch is underrepresented, but that's, I think, by design, because it costs so much to store and do everything else.
I think for half a second he was talking about us when he said physical merch. We have looked into it. We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we don't do it is because even for us, even the limited amount of stuff we've been looking at is a storage issue and manufacturing issue, and and that's certainly the case for CIG as well. Yep. They used to have Impact's physical goods. When they went digital, they moved them out because it was such a nightmare.
And it's become better for Americans, but a shitload worse for everywhere else. Because now they bulk ship it from Asia to the United States. So, like, to give an example, we used to be able to get a mouse pad for about 50 Australian dollars, right? Which is already very expensive. You can get a mouse pad for 20 bucks here, right? And I've got this big one right in front of me, and this costs like $16, right? And they're very similar in quality for $16 what I got for 50. Algared brought all the mouse pads, by the way. Like, he loves the mouse pads.
No, I haven't got them all.
Yeah, but they've gone up in price significantly, have they not?
Now.
But they went from about $45, $50, and now they're about $70, $80. They've essentially doubled in price, and they do not let you combine them together for shipping.
Yeah.
So it's shit for anyone that lives outside the United States or major shipping places. So they need to have a place in Asia that posts it out, a place in the United States that ships it out, and a place in Europe that ships it out, just to bring those prices down. And it's not something they've catered to. They've just gone straight for the major pie, which is US, and then left everyone else languishing.
And part of that is, I imagine, ties in with the ability for them to store, the cost,
time and effort to organize as well. That's something we need to talk about. You just prompted coolness in my head. We have to go back to that thing I linked you. Where the hell was that? All right, we need to talk about this. You know what I'm about to link, Algared. This thing. Right, let me flick this over. So Xylo posted this on his page, right?
Oh, yes.
They are making this to sell, by the way. And apparently, from people that I've talked to, I'm going to mute it, though, in the background. Apparently, they have been working on this for many years. And I think a lot of people are going to be up for this. And it's not made by JR Fabrications. Apparently, it's made by like an actual toy company. So it can actually be kind of produced on mats. It's just what I've heard. That could all be rumors. But that is definitely at a different level of what we've seen before. And I think a lot of people are going to want to buy that.
It to me resembles the the desk lamps that these Star Wars or the the Millennium Falcon desk lamp or the Enterprise desk lamp.
So, but here's the funny thing: this ship was really popular back when they looked into this, and now it's fallen a little bit out of favor. But ironically, it's like I reckon they'll do this with other ships as well, given time.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to see a Connie redone.
How much do you reckon they're gonna sell that for? $200 USD? As much as the ship costs? Yeah. Can you imagine if they sold it and you get a free copy of the actual ship if you buy it?
Man, if they look, they might. Hey, never say never.
Yeah.
If I was looking at getting funding,
Yeah.
and I was looking at, okay, this is going to cost us 150. Okay, I'm going to sell 250. Man, 300 bat plus a ship plus a suit of armor plus you could bulk that up. It's a lovely looking ship.
You can see here though, like you can see from the molding and stuff though, like how it's mass produced though.
Yeah.
And then assembled together in pieces. So there's essentially a top and a bottom, and it clips over each other. And there's also an internal. So it's probably two dual layer molds. So one for the internal, and then that slips in, and then the other two molds go around the outside of that. Is what I'm expecting it to be.
Yep.
So it's
plastic
injected molded. Yeah.
A nice looking ship with interior.
Yep.
And much better than the Connie's pull down dock and the ability to look through and see the seats. That this is much more detailed.
So we got a first time chatter that says Steve the Dancer, and he says it is small. If you have seen the Connie that they did, like that is Tyler Whitkin's hand. Now I don't know how big his hand is, but let's say it's average size. That's like 4 palms big. That's
big.
Pretty big.
That's not small.
I would say that's a pretty big. Like, and Algared, you've got the Connie. What's
I
the Connie
do.
about this long?
10 inches.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
big.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
I'll promise on our next episode or next stream that I will have a Connie, but I can actually hold it. I think I've actually done it in the past.
Yeah.
Pulled the Connie out and held it up and showed it.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is not for sale at this year's Citizen Con, or they talk about it on an ISC or something like that, because that will be very, very popular. This is the type of shit you want to be making, not bobbleheads. And that's why the bobbleheads didn't sell very well. Again, you got to make the right merch for the right audience. So yeah.
I could see selling bobbleheads as in-game merch, because as hangar flair or cockpit flair.
Absolutely.
Look, did I buy the bobbleheads? Yeah, because I like the merch.
I don't think you don't have. I think the only thing you don't have is like the Pico slippers from memory, but that's about it.
No, there's a few of it. There's a few things I don't have. I've missed up 4 or 5 of the mouse pads because of the shipping things, or because they sold out before I could even see them.
Yeah.
There are other things, I don't have. Yeah, there's a lot of the merch I don't have.
I'm just going to ask.
I spent too much on ships and now don't have.
I think it would fit, but I don't think it would sit. I'm just answering Artemis TMD's question there. He says, question for you, Inforunners. Is there anyone in chat, do you think that the RSI Apollo would fit in the hangar of the Idris? Technically, it is the smallest large ship in the game. It may physically fit into it, but it won't sit, because those 3 things are for small ships and it's a large, but it is the smallest large. I have heard people say that they got a mole in there, but the mole is also the largest medium. So the mole and the Apollo are very close in size. So if the mole can go in, I can't see why you couldn't get the Apollo. But again, it'll fit, but it doesn't sit. And that's because, how do I explain that? Because the pads are built for small ships. So it'll sit in there and it'll move around and destroy everything just from being jiggled around, but it won't lock in place. So yeah, it's, again, people are not used to that yet. And once that comes in and that is an actual thing, people are not going to be wanting to put, even if they fit, people are not going to want to put them in there because it'll cause damage. And as soon as you go into atmosphere, it's going to fly around like a rag doll and destroy everything. And even
why you have straps holding cargo down.
Well, what was the other thing they talked about? The physical forces and stuff. You know how you get thrown around at the moment as a player? That'll start happening to cargo as well. And a ship inside another ship will be cargo. So that ship will hit the wall of the, damage itself and damage the ship that it's inside. And if a ship explodes inside another ship, if a ship explodes inside another ship, you can only imagine the damage it's going to do.
Yeah, because it won't have shields or armor protecting it. But if you could, at the moment, you can carry those cargo boxes, little delivery mission boxes in your Aurora in the back. Once those physical conditions happen and they're bouncing around, you don't want to be doing that.
I also
you an Aurora and you're wearing a box for a head.
Yeah, you'll have the cargo carry-all at that point, but
Yeah.
I think it also leads to the fact that a lot of ships are eventually going to get like kind of what happened to the Tanner and the Redeemer. Even like any ship that has kind of in internals will have some kind of place where they modify it so you can have one or two little small SCU containers. It's just such a basic requirement that there's no realistically, and I'm talking realistically, like not in game. Every ship needs some I remember them talking about the Buccaneer as an example. It actually has weapon racks either side of the seat, but they're not active at the moment, right? And much like what they did the Gladius with the little storage areas, they did the Santok they're going to go back and do that to everything across the board. So whether you've got just a small little storage area or a tiny small area where you can carry like one or two SCU, I think you're going to find that that's going to happen to almost every ship that's more combat focused. You'll some will get it, some won't. Again, I think it's more like so something like the Herald would be able to take cargo inside it, but the Saber Raven would be more like a storage thing, like the Gladius. I think would you be agreement with me on that, or you think it'd be different?
I think they are going to go through and fix those storage areas. As we were talking about it, it did make me think those bobbleheads we've got for putting on our dashboards. They could kill us.
True. Death by spring.
Death by bobblehead.
That would be funny. Yeah, I brought a Drake bobblehead and the spring broke and it killed. Like the head popped off and yeah, that could be even. Oh man, can you imagine if let's talk physics for a second. They take out the grav generator, everything starts floating, and then all of a sudden they do it like a force, like they hit you or something like that, and then like a pin goes through your character or something that was like death by noodle box. You know, that could be really funny. It leads to some very what I call it, emergent gameplay that would just like I died in
the emergency medical hologram.
What was that really weird thing they said a couple of years back where someone died to a fire extinguisher?
Yeah, it was in the
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
But, someone killed someone with a fire extinguisher. It'll be that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Piss Poor Pete. Statement customization is the key to longevity. Custom. Yep. Absolutely. That's why they experiment with the 300i type customization.
And that'll go across all of them eventually.
Lasers, UV unwraps of ships. Yep. And I can see down the track we'll be able to get blueprints to particular buildings layouts that we can do, or particular style of buildings. Even depending on how the links are, will depend the layout of bases we build.
Again, like if you hired someone as their full-time job was to just check artwork for the community for just nose arts and skins and stuff like that, that person's job would pay for itself and then some. Can you imagine, like, so, Piss Poor Pete makes his own little doggo nose art to go on his ship and stuff like that. And, people that are in his org, the Doggo 551 squadron or whatever, and they make a killing on it.
He actually makes another point in terms of engine effects. So he says an Iron Cat engine trail would sell like hotcakes. It would. I remember playing not Star Citizen, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
That game. Yep.
And if you went into the ship combat one, you could actually do stuff and buy an engine trail for your ship that you applied, and it changed the color of your engine trail. And people were doing that just to get a different engine trail because that helped make your ship different, because every other ship that came out in that scene was the same. So engine trails helped modify the look of your ship.
And all this stuff they make now before release, there's no reason they can't roll that into the final game for you just to earn,
Yeah.
So what we're getting now is by paying for it, we're essentially getting early access and not have to rep grind for these things, and it just gives them more things to put behind rep walls. So I've worked my way up with what are the RR people called in one of the gangs in Pyro, and they have now given me access to their
signature engine trail. So
you get me.
So yeah, that's one of ours because you got our engine
Yeah. So you just, and they're also wearing our camo colors on their Gladius, and they've also got our nose art on their Gladius and stuff like that. And again, like Pete said, it all leads back to customization.
Why do people like housing in games?
Because they can decorate the houses and lay them out and build them the way they want. Yeah, absolutely. Don't disagree.
Why do people like the clothing? Because they can customize it for themselves and look different or look cool, regardless of what cool means for them. But yeah, it's that whole idea. Customization makes the world go.
I'm looking forward to using my Old Man Hurston Uwu Girl leopard print bedding. Delicious. Yeah. You'll keep. I'll wait for him to say you keep. That's what he says to me.
What I think you're pushing for. You're gonna. Yeah.
I just like the way you squirm. That's the way I do it.
Question for Lemming: Were people in Pyro able to chat with people in Stanton and vice versa? I do believe that's not necessarily the case because they weren't doing jump points.
They did have the server meshing though. Lemming, you there, mate? No, he's not there. Lemming, if you hear us or listening.
I'm here. I just had to unmute.
Yep.
I don't know if I can talk about chat.
Okay,
so
no worries.
I'm not going to.
Yep,
so
that's fine. So to be determined. We'll put that under there. That's fine. There's only certain things the Avocado can talk about. All right, no worries. Yeah, I'd have to assume with the servers being meshed though, the chats would be one chat, or there'd be a chat that copies the chat to the other chat. So I'd say yes. Eventually, at the least.
I can't speculate that global chat is not long for this world. It is not going to be in game.
Well, that's
for
true. Yeah,
so.
it'd be the Stanton system and the Pyro system. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah,
and also they did mention. Yeah, actually, you got a really good point there, because they used to talk about sending messages to other systems had to go via drone through jump points, didn't they, Algared, back in the day? He's right. That's not going to be a thing. Yeah,
stuff. And it may even be that we don't even have Stanton-wide communication.
Yeah. You've got to send a drone from, or it takes time for a message to travel from Hurston to like it's artificially delayed when it pops up in their feed. That's cool because that adds a realism factor. But this is why people keep going, well, I'm never going to use Spectrum because I can just jump on Discord and do whatever I want. And you've heard my rants on Spectrum, so I'm not going to go there. But,
maybe that's how they'll kind of adjust it. And would it mean Discord still has a problem? Well, you're in another area and you say, hey, I need your help over here, but it's going to take you time to get there. So
so Midgards is saying should be like WoW according to zones. It is a little bit like that, but just imagine there's no overarching global chat. But you got to also remember they talked about it actually taking time to send messages to add to that realism. And I remember the example they gave, and it was like if it wanted to go over multiple systems, it had to travel to the jump point. So the time it takes to send it at whatever the speed it travels at, I can't remember what they said, but digitally transferred to that. And then it gets loaded into a drone. The drone travels through the wormhole to the other drone station on the other side. They retransmit that to the next station on the other side of the station. Drone goes again, and it just leapfrogs and continues all the way to where it's got to go.
Why is that type of stuff important? Because it makes ships like the Herald
important. Yeah. Yeah, and it makes it's part of the data gameplay. And it also adds a massive realism level because you can't just put out the call and say, hey, we're under attack over here, everyone come here. Because you can do that, but it might take an hour to go 5 systems out, and then they start coming. You know what I mean? And it adds to that realism because you're not going to just want to go to press the oh shit button. And by the way, Johnny's going to jump on Discord and go, guys, we're under attack, 3 systems over, and they will start coming, right? But they can't just call everyone. So yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Next question is Little Ribbon.
Just hang on, let me address this. So Aaron is absolutely correct. That the last part I was saying there about Discord. This is until Spectrum improves to the level of Discord, it's never going to be. And you would have heard my rant last week about Discord, so I'm not going to go on about that again. About Spectrum, but I'm not going to go about it. Sorry,
Look, Spectrum has problems. I can see them wanting to improve it so it works better in game.
Not going to be a thing.
Until it is as good as Discord, it ain't going to work.
Yeah. It's
Because
never
people-
going to be as good as Discord without downvoting. So until they improve it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Redmond, why do you think spending more money is going to bring this game to fruition? 10 years of development, and we still got space.
They
We got
need-
space for Fallout 76, but worse.
They need to advertise it. That's the problem. For it to get out there and get to as many people as possible so they make more money, you got to spend money to make money. Go look at modern games these days, right? And you would be absolutely dumbfounded. They spend more money on marketing than they do on the games.
Yeah,
It's absolute bananas. And look at how far we've come with Star Citizen at the moment, and that's all word of mouth. Besides the little bit of testing they've done on YouTube and stuff like that, right? But they are gonna. Who are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to every content creator under the sun, all you guys. They're going to pull in everyone they know to get the word out. They're going to use us to do it because that's the cheapest and freest way to do it.
And you consider you're bringing up Fallout 76 as your example. Fallout 76 was a AAA game supposedly that was released and ready.
Yeah. And
it was buggy as shit.
And what was that post we saw? Was it during the week or last week where one of the developers was saying he was surprised how bug-free they'll work? Look, they're really polishing the shit out of it right now. I don't have the post, but I think I sent it to you. So actually, I might.
So that's what that 10 years has done.
Yeah.
That's why the spending. That's why you're spending more money.
Here we go. I think I found it. Is this the one? It's loading. Hold on. Awkward. Silence. All right, there we go. No. No, that was the... No, that's not the right one. Sorry.
Well, you look for that. I'll move us on to the next question.
Yeah, but then you've moved on to the next question, and it's not relevant anymore.
And the next question I think we've actually answered. It's what are our thoughts on master modes? I think the idea of them is good because it brings slowing the game down and bringing that in puts us to the point where we can see the eye candy.
Yeah.
And you spoke, I think, fairly detailed on that and your experience as well. So,
yep. Sorry. What was the question again? What was
thoughts on master modes?
We talked about that a bit before. Yeah, I'd get people out there and I even said at one point today, I think maybe we should jump in with some viewers and play it. So, I wouldn't mind maybe right after the show or even now. But like again, if we do anything that's not the questions, people get annoyed. But I would love to jump in and get two hammerheads going in Pirate Swarm or some shit like that and just blasting the shit out of things.
Make a valley. There's idea for CIG to raise more money is to generate more interest. Maybe by starting an animated series or some other sort of media that generates interest in Star Citizen, like Cyberpunk did.
So that's not low-hanging fruit. That's got a cost.
Yep.
You want something they can do that's one or two people at the company and generates funds, like skins. That really low-hanging fruit.
They want to take a page from Inforunners guidebook. Why don't we edit execute?
Because it takes too bloody long.
Because it's labor.
And we're tired by the end of this shit. Like,
yeah.
Can you imagine having to sit down and we've edited videos in the past. Like, you take a 3-hour video like this, it would take 9 hours to edit. Stuff that. I just want to get it out. You know?
Yeah. And we find if we start editing, you actually lose that dynamic.
Yeah.
One other reason we don't is because we like that dynamic of that discussion, the debate, or
remember back in the early day, and we would always want to try and get it perfect all the time, and we'd reshoot it 5 times, and it would just get flatter and flatter and flatter. And we've just learned how to live with the mistakes because it just has that and there's even ones we've recorded more recently, Algared. Remember, we'd get to an end of an episode and go, shit, and we'll just think of this really important point. It's like, we're going to redo that whole video. And even the second time we redo it, it's not the same. It's not the same. It just goes flat. And we're like, shit, was that first bit wasn't as good as the first one, but that piece of information at the end was way more important.
That debate, which one do we...
Yeah, and we've sat there and and it's almost always it's the last one. But
I think a classic example is also the Redeemer episode we did. Can we fix it, Redeemer?
Which only patrons have seen at this point. And Algared wanted to release it this week, and I'm like, no.
It's true. I did suggest we release it, and we went nah, because and the reason it hasn't been released is because we actually want to redo it because of the content and the things that Paul and I were saying.
Yeah,
we want to actually develop those thoughts more and put them in, and
I think at this point, though, it's been 6 months since we did it, so it's probably going to be like the same thing again.
A brand new episode, completely different anyway.
But yeah, it was called a can we fix it? And if any of you have seen that series, you know what it's about. But it was on the Redeemer, and I specifically went out of my way to get Paul for that episode because he
hates it.
He hates it, right? And I wanted to kind of know why. And the really interesting thing that kind of came out of it was I very clearly went, right, so they promised this, delivered this, and only half the audience likes this. So it clearly means they need to go back and make this other ship. And I'm going to be honest with you, the other ship did sound really cool as well. And that's when I started. Remember when I did those really rough silhouettes of what I called the Anvil? Yeah, so I made this little ship in my head called the Anvil Reaper. And it's kind of like a Redeemer counterpart by Anvil, and it's never going to be made. It was just me having a bit of shits and giggle fun, and I just thought it was kind of cool to have a ship called.
Out of that discussion of what was there and how it should have worked, and it took and why we didn't like,
and it took the ideas you and Paul put in my head about certain things. So the big one I remember was just how a dropship would not be on the the cockpit would not be on the second level. It would be on the ground for landing purposes and deployment purposes. And they are right. That is correct. And so I, essentially, if you flip the Redeemer and put all the modular stuff on top and had the top level on the bottom, like essentially flip them. And that's what I essentially started to do in my Anvil thing. And then I laid it out from there and position guns. So instead of the guns being top bottom, I did them on the sides, and things like that. And yeah, just little things like that, and changed it a little bit. So, but it is very much a competitor to the Redeemer. But again, never will be a thing. I did it for fun. Hey, Oztech. Hang on. Thank you for the raid, Oztech. You rating with a party of 16. Thank you, Oztech. Good to see you, bud.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, guys. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. If you stay. Zil Redman on YouTube says, that's my point. 76 was released in the same state as Star Citizen is now after 10 years of development.
And they are one game company at a mega publisher corporation. CIG don't have that luxury. They cannot have this game fail. It's going to come out
as polished
super
as anything.
Polished. Yeah.
Bruce has never wanted to produce a game that's shit.
Yeah. You only have to read that post we mentioned earlier about Cyberpunk. That tells you what he's prepping for. And I'll go find it.
And then a lot of that development in those 10 years has been building the tools that they needed to be able to do the stuff they're doing now. The game, the development of Star Citizen really didn't start until 2014 when the Manchester team came online. Even though they had the Kickstarter in 2012, end of 2012 or 2013. Yeah, sure. It'd be nice to see the game ship, but you don't want it to ship in a broken thing. Chris is sick and tired, and I'm sure you are sick and tired, and everyone else is sick and tired of AAA games being put out that are broken. They should not be broken. If you're putting out a game, don't send it broken. Don't expect your modders to fix the errors and make it playable. That's BS, total BS. And take a deep breath, calm down, because I know I'm starting to get frustrated by what we see in game developers.
Lemming or anyone else, if you can find that link it somewhere in chat. I'm having trouble finding it, but the
letter from a chairman. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, and they mentioned it's not last year's, but I think it was the year before, like 2022 or 2021.
It was certainly the year that Cyberpunk released.
Yeah, it'd be literally whenever Cyberpunk came out, and that was like 3 years ago, so it would be 2021.
It came out and it was a buggy mess, and Chris said that's not going to happen. We don't want that to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen to my game, I think is the exact words he used.
We the whole effort is to polish that and make it good. And I said for years, I always thought Arena Commander was as good as most AAA games that we're getting anyway, and that was way back when.
You've only got to look at Helldivers and Suicide Squad. Same genre of game, 1 week apart. One took 9 years to develop, and done by like a mega corporation. The other one took 9 years, but done by a very small crew. And look at how much one has outsold the other. And which one's the better game? It's got microtransactions, but they're very small and cheap. They're $3 to $6. There are literally skins in Suicide Squad that cost more than the entire game of Helldivers. Bananas. And this is in $110 deluxe edition game. And it was crap. You know, it was, again, they went down that live service rate. And you know the funny thing, Algared, is a lot of those companies that are being laid off, you know, I was talking about massive dev layoffs. Almost all of them are coming from studios that were doing live service games. They're killing live service games because they're finally getting the message that they don't work.
Yep.
Because they've got to be really, really good and really, really well done. And they can't do that because they're not prepared to put the money in and take the time. Again, this is the problem. Money people want money, but they don't understand why games are good. Larian Studios that made Baldur's Gate 3 at the there was awards recently. I think it was the Dice Game Awards or whatever it was called. I can't remember which one. And they literally got up on stage and said, "We don't have what do you call it? People that give you stock market. We don't have shareholders, and we don't think about them. We just think about making really good games, and that's why we're successful." And that's the problem with this industry as a whole. It's become about money raising. And so they're giving us less for more as time goes on. We didn't have expansion packs. We didn't have DLC. We didn't have microtransactions. We didn't have loot boxes. It's just more and more that's been added to take more and more and given less over time. You can go back and let's take Suicide Squad. More people are now playing Batman Arkham than are playing Suicide Squad because it got them nostalgic for the old game. And they went back and played that. And there was another game recently that was really shit as well. And everyone went back and played the old game, even though the old game was 10 years old. And it's a much, much, much better game.
Yep. But you look at the approach of, you know, the Larian Games and their view that we're not worried about, you know, we don't have shares and we're not on the market and we're not worried about their income. We're just trying to make a good game. That has always been Chris's view.
That's why I know this game doesn't succeed, because there isn't a publisher. Now, there are drawbacks to having publishers and not having publishers. Thanks for the link, by the way, Pete. We'll look at that in a sec. Yep.
You know, and it is that problem of, you know, to build a game of the scope that you want, there's that yin and yang. And in this case, to have a staff and a crew, you need money to pay them. And so you've got to do the fundraising role. But
so that link that hang on, that link that Pete dropped and that I dropped in YouTube, that's the 10-minute letter that we were talking about for Cyberpunk, and it's worth reading because it puts you in the mindset of how Chris is thinking about this game, and it's how you know when it comes out, it's got to hit the ground running, and you want it to be a little bit like Baldur's Gate, where it comes out highly polished and just smashes it because it's success. And like Helldivers, it comes out and it just sells well because it's a damn good fucking game. Excuse my French.
No, but that's the idea, you know, and you get the idea. Chris just wants to put out a really good game.
Yep.
And any fundraising that's done, it's so that you don't have to, you know, leverage a publisher or someone else. It's, so yeah. Anyway, that's a deep excursion into other stuff. But I think the other ways of generating cash could be done, but things like, as McEvil was saying, you know, it'd be great to see a cartoon version. There is actually a cartoon series for Wing Commander, Wing Commander Academy, voiced by Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell. And
you know how they get those? You wouldn't make money off it. I was going to say, you know how they have that team that does the little animations for ISC? Imagine if that was like a little bit episodic from week to week. It could be kind of interesting. Let me know when you get back.
How much time do I have to spend to make that? How much money is that going to cost?
And that's what I mean. Like how does
that's the downside of it.
Yeah. That's the problem. It's not low-hanging fruit. Maybe in the future it could be kind of a cool thing when they've got more people. But I think this year we're in a transitional year where we're going from just funding with ships to we now have much bigger teams that are beyond the scope of what we've been able to fund before, and we now need to get the game out to fund those bigger teams. But that was all part of the plan. So this was obviously one of the hardest times to transition, you know, we need more money than just the ships provide into ships and the sale of the Squadron 42. But once they start selling Squadron 42, I think they won't be hard pressed for money for quite a while.
No,
and it'll steamroll them into episode 2 and 3, and it'll also help fund Star Citizen. That was the original plan. Use Squadron 42 to fund Star Citizen because you need so much more people for Star Citizen than Squadron.
And I think the fact that they took Squadron 42 out of the equation has also had impact on that fundraising and stuff as well. So, yeah, okay. What's
Yeah, well, let's talk about. Sorry, I'm just reading a thing about someone was talking about in chat. I missed their name, but really good studios. Look at Blizzard. Look what's happened to Blizzard. You know, that has had an entire life cycle. They started out as a small studio that grew, become beloved, and a lot of the one of the guys, the gold shirt guy, Mark with the gold shirt that worked at Star Citizen, that's now moved on from Star Citizen as well. I interviewed him way back when, and I was just surprised to learn about all the shit he had worked on that was all from my childhood, like Diablo 2. He made all the cinematics for World of Warcraft, Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, and stuff like that. And some of my favorite cinematics he made, and I was like, holy shit, you know. And now that whole thing's moved on,
wasn't it?
and that's how Mark Sheldon, yeah, that's it. And look at the company, it's dying. I knew when because there was 2 CEOs. When the other CEO left, the second one, and I think this was about 2016, I knew the writing was on the wall. And look at the steady decline, and look at what they're doing now. They are just pumping them for money. Well, Activision was until they got brought out, but like they were just doing remake after remake. They re-released all of World of Warcraft and not really added too many new expansions. It's just all being reliving the past, and some of those that they brought out were terrible, like Warcraft Reforged, the StarCraft Remastered. They're all very low tier. Look at what happened with Diablo 3. That's kind of where it started, and now Diablo 4's come out, and it was just pumping for cash. And then they learned from that, and they've dialed it back. But the damage has been done. Like, I haven't gone back to Diablo 4 because of that cash grab, and I know a lot of people won't because the trust has been lost, right? And this is the thing that money people don't understand. That really good money that they are after, it comes with good games, and more important than anything else, trust. You blow that trust, it is gone, and it'll take you years to get it back. And another example of that is EA. EA almost seems to work on 10-year cycles where they get greedier and greedier over time. There's a massive blowout, and then they go back to making good shit again, and then we're just getting into that again now. And then they'll blow it out again, and it'll...
I've seen arguments about that with Hasbro and D&D.
Yep, absolutely, same thing. Yep,
money thing. They stuff it up and then they come back and do that.
We've even seen it with CIG, man, where you're getting a little bit greedy with the ships. Like, look at the Prowler, and then the next sale that came out, we're like, geez, that Talon was cheap, $90 for an alien ship. What's going on here?
You see it with Hello Games. Hello Games had all the big promise. They released the game. It was a buggy mess, and they lost all that trust.
Yep.
Their game is now really good.
Yep. And they owned it. That
took a long time to rebuild that trust.
Took them 10 years to earn it back, and ironically, they were promising what Star Citizen delivered, and it's taken them almost just as long to get back to where Star Citizen was. So, yeah.
So, yeah. All right, Eagle. And I'm going to suggest, Dex, that you turn off the bot because it is now 8 o'clock.
Oh, shit. It's been going quick, man. We've got so many questions to go through.
We're only at, I think, 6 o'clock.
I will say Artemis has just brought up EA cancelled another Star Wars game this week. I think there's a bit more in that than you realize. Other people that work with Disney are learning that Star Wars is not as profitable, and Disney now charge 20% royalty fees. They used to charge 10%, so charging 20% and Star Wars is on the massive decline. That's why they cancelled it. There's very few that succeed. Jedi,
basically.
Fallen Order succeeded, but why would you make a whole new game and a whole new property on a IP that's on decline? And Disney need to work really hard to turn around, and hopefully they do, because
now there's another company that is killing its
it's killing itself.
Trust.
Yeah. Again, whether you agree with the politics or not, we'll leave that out of it. But first and foremost, it's a movie, and they are stories, or TV shows. They are stories. Story first, and a really good writer will be able to do a message and a story, not just all messaging and pandering. And that's why they're failing. Again, Needs of the many, not the needs of the few. All right, Agrid, you're saying?
So Eagle 0013 has a question. This was asked at 6:12, so we're significantly behind. Will there be quantum interdiction devices, size requirements for what will disable capitals? Yes. Should the Mantis be able to QED and Idris?
Sorry, I'm replying someone in chat, and I probably misspelt Mandalorian. Sorry, but yeah, they cancelled a Mandalorian game. Who was it by? Eagle?
Eagle 0013. Should there be QED size requirements?
I think there should be. I do think there should be, and I also think it would. I thought about this quite a lot actually. I almost think it. So if you're a large ship, right? And I tried to think of how you would make this balanced, right? Is I almost think that it should be able to go above and below your ship size. So if you're large, it would stop a capital ship, and it would stop a medium ship, but it wouldn't stop a small or a tiny. So you see how that works? Because then you could have a small ship with a QED on it, and it would stop a tiny and a medium, but then a capital is a problem for you. You see what I mean? See how it kind of like it blocks.
Yeah, you've also got the range of the size of the bubble you could create. I'm not sure how you do it. I don't think.
Again, if you think about what I was talking about, it essentially makes it rock paper scissors. Because if you have
your ships can't just shut down everyone.
Yeah. So if you have a capital, it would stop the large ships from moving around and the snubs. So it's the ones that are either side of it essentially, right? But then a small ship or a medium ship can come and wreck your day, right? So it's this weird kind of rock paper scissors thing, and that's kind of naturally how they work at the moment too. Like they want the smaller ships to be able to destroy the capitals, and the capitals destroy the large destroy the medium, the medium destroys the small.
I'd like to see something where it was the power requirement was needed. So I've got X amount of power to put in. I can shut down this ship, or I can shut down, depending on the size requirement. I need 100 points to shut down this ship, 200 points to shut down this ship. I've got 150 points.
They can also the other way. The other thing that I'm just noticing they're leaning towards is like the Mantis. It is kind of a vulnerable ship. What if it wasn't a capital ship? It has to be external, so it's easier to shut down, right? So you can target it and shoot it because it's got to be out. Well, you know how it opens on the Mantis and it kind of becomes bare to space. Same thing. It's got to open on a capital ship and it's bare. So if you can get a shot on it,
shuts it down.
Yeah.
And I'd expect to see Vindicator ships, like the Star Wars Vindicators that, have the quantum interdiction devices or disabling devices. But yeah.
Yeah.
But do I think there should be should a Mantis be able to shut down an Idris? I don't think so. Or it should be able to interfere with it, so it takes longer time, or for it to spool up or whatever. But yeah.
All right, next question. How long? All right, we'll get on to rapid fire, I think here. Question by JS says, "Can you kick Zil Redmond from chat? He's killing my high." What? No, I can't.
Sorry, because we didn't get to your question until 2 hours later, and he's probably gone.
Damien Remez says, no. Hook 205 says, "Will people from Terra be terrorists?" Algared, you're a terrorist, so you can answer that.
People from Terra are terrorists, just like people from Sol are soulless.
Right. Limited respawn. And you were worried that you didn't have enough questions. Yes, we were. That shows you how long that took to come through. Because question: did Execute take your pants on? Yes, I did put pants on the end. I got in chat earlier, and I said I didn't even have pants on.
Yeah,
you guys, there was like 30 people waiting when I got up. I was like, what? Why are you all here? This is weird.
I got on with 41 waiting, and I thought, what the hell?
It's good to see people talking with each other, though. And
yeah, it was novel. It was usually like crickets and tumbleweeds.
Cos says they pack your bag. They don't do that here in Eastern Europe. You have to put the stuff inside the bag on your own. Yeah, so they do have a supermarket trend called Audi that you guys have actually brought across to Australia, and you have to pack your own bags there too. I hate it. But the supermarket shopping is way cheaper because of it, because they don't have to pay the staff. Yeah, having your bags packed is, especially if you buy a lot of shit, is really handy because they, it's really well weighted and packed, and It's a social thing too. You can talk to people, like, and I'll put it in a really awkward way. Old people, right? Some really old people that live alone. It is the only human interaction they have at all. And I know that sounds weird, but I've heard a lot of old people say that. Oh, the only person I talk to is the person at the checkout. I'm like, you
The only
serious?
person I talk to is my supermarket checkout person. Or
so you imagine how much that relieves their depression and shit like that. And if you take that away, yeah.
Yep.
My
Henny Penny, is the sky falling? Is my question.
I'm surprised we haven't seen any new ships since Christmas, since they are pushing ship sales. Well, it's low-hanging fruit. A new ship is work. Reselling something you've already got is easier. Which is why we're seeing it. Yeah. Revel says, question, do you think the odds are we get a mid-sized Banu ship after Raelian since the BMM is shelved? I had this talk with we were talking with was it Zenez? I always forget the guy's name because it's spelt weird. Zenez, I think his name is. He's an Aussie guy that lives in.
He was in general earlier, but he's gone.
Yeah, he's an Aussie guy that lives in Dubai. He lives in Dubai, but he's from Australia. And he was asking a very similar question to that. And I think it's law-based because the Banu just don't have a lot of ships. And if you're going to do an expansion pack for each race eventually, and they don't have very many ships, I think they're saving a lot of them for that. Yeah.
Although that has changed because originally they didn't even have a Sulu that built military ships.
I'll throw this back at you then. Why did they replace the Banu merchantman with a Raelian? And not another.
I know exactly why.
And not another.
It's no longer what it was.
Yes, but why didn't they replace it with a Banu ship rather than a Zion ship?
And that's a good point. And I think part of it is they don't have a design language. The Banu aren't as thought out or developed as the Xi'an. So I can think of those, but I would like to see a mid-sized Banu ship. But I think it comes down to the family manufacturers, and I think part of it is the Banu don't have as many ships as everyone else.
All right. So there's two questions that came through that got cut off by the bot, but I am going to make it clear the bot is now cut off. So I'm going to answer these two questions really quickly. Django Left on Twitch says, since the Idris is coming out before the Javelin, think the Jav owners will get an Idris's loan up? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised they wouldn't get an Idris and a Kraken as well if the Kraken eventually comes online before the Javelin. Yeah. Actually, that's not right because the Javelin will be out before the Kraken. In fact, you know what I'm counting on? I get an Idris as a loan for my Kraken, Algared. Counting on it.
Yeah, I would expect an Idris for a Kraken owner. Yeah. Given they're basically the same size ship. And I once heard it was even kind of using the Idris shell as part of the initial design.
Yeah. Second question. Is the BMM shelved indefinitely? No, I think it's just shelved until they come around to work on it again. But I think the reason I said this earlier, the reason I think they worked on it then was it was a standalone. It didn't really, it's kind of like the 890 jump. Why they did that earlier, because it's just a ship they could bang out as a one, and they weren't really going to carry on that look to other things because there's less Banu ships. But, you know, we'll see.
In answer to Henny Penny's question, can you link this image? Unfortunately, no, because we don't know what the image was you wanted.
I think they were talking about the one that had all the ships on it, and I did link it.
Okay. I do that.
Oztech, thank you for the subscription, tier 1 on Twitch. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Has a question. Which star citizenship will be equal to the famous to the Eve Titan?
There is multiple Eve Titans, so that confuses me. There's 4 of them.
The one, I'd say the Retribution.
Yeah, Retribution would be, the Kingship, maybe.
Kingship.
Can you imagine if we could actually control it?
Now, I know they're ships that we
Did you hear what it said?
Control. Sorry?
Can you imagine if we can eventually control a Kingship?
Yeah, that would be huge.
Yeah.
I know initially they don't want that to be the case because Vandal blow up their ships if they're in danger of being captured.
Yeah.
And that would mean if they make it, but we can capture them, we've got to do the internals of them fully, which means work. Yeah. Negativity, thank you for that $5. As an Idris owner, I think the only loan at Jav Kraken should get is an 890. As an Idris owner, I think you're wrong. But that's okay.
And let's all be thankful you don't work at CIG.
As
our evil overlord. No.
But I think that I'm going to modify that. I think as an Idris owner, the only ship that Execute should get for a Kraken is an 890.
No. You do that. Don't put ideas in people's heads, Algared. Shut up. Yeah.
I know how much you love that ship. It is a wonderful ship to have.
It was like the 600i. I brought it to get that skin, and I named it the Flying Pig. Oh, the Stuff Pig is what I loved it, because it was stuffed straight back into buyback after I used it. That was what I called it, the Stuff Pig.
Henny Penny.
Yeah, go for it.
I think the criticism of master modes are pretty valid as they are, but more importantly, why they are fundamentally changing the spaceship flight model today. It really makes, why are they changing this flight model today? It really makes me question Squadron 42 being announced before the end of the year. I think we will see Squadron 42 announced by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think. 100%. Yeah, I think you're finding like everything's kind of coming together with Squadron 42. That's why you're seeing all these changes, because they're finalizing things for it. I don't. As for the first part, not everyone's going to be happy with the flight model. It's just not possible. There's too many of us, and we've got too many different styles and stuff like that. And I think you would have to agree, it's kind of like a democracy, not to kind of quote Helldivers, but you've got to appeal to the masses. It's the only way this is going to work. If you're making a game and you want to make, because we've got to think of this outside ourselves as a company that needs to survive. If you're trying to make the game as massive appeal as possible, you make it appeal to the most amount of people. It's simple logic, right? So unfortunately, the two groups of people that miss out is the top end of town and the bottom end of town. Yeah. Right at the moment, it's right up at the top end of town, and the medium part of town and the bottom end of town are missing out. So if you bring it back to the middle, you hit 75% of people. It's just the top and the bottom that miss out, and that is that's like almost everything in life. You want to hit most people as possible. It's the many.
We've said it dozens of times over the years.
Yep.
Star Citizen, the PU, will not have everything that you and I want. There will be things in it that we absolutely detest. Base has said it. You know, Paul has said it. You know, it's one of the things. It's almost a lament, or almost an incantation as well. We know there are going to be things that we hate, but there are also going to be lots of things we love.
And I think there's enough room in this game to have all of it.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it is like I said, you can have modes and stuff that fall outside that, right? So.
%.
Trying to enforce something that you really, really like on everybody, though, it's going to make it a niche game. No matter where that lands, you just can't force things on people.
It ties in with my absolute hatred of the PvP argument of you must PvP with me, otherwise you ruin my fun.
Yeah,
you can't flip it on its head, and it applies equally. If you don't PvE with me, you're ruining my fun. Both of those comments cannot be equally true. Both are equally false. And you want to get, and that is always my argument against the usual PvP argument that you see put forward.
Yeah.
It's not that I hate PvP, it's just that I hate that argument.
Yeah.
Anyway, Artemis TGM. Question for the Inforunners and anyone in chat. Do you think the RSI Apollo will fit in the hangar of an Idris?
We answered this before.
And I believe it may fit, but it may not be locked. Yes, we did answer that before.
Yep.
Citizen Scott, they are focusing on one brand family at a time with RSI the first. So who is next? We announced 600i rework make Origin.
Someone at CitizenCon got back to me. They asked John Crew this, and they said they still haven't worked it out internally, and that they said that they mentioned there's multiple options there. They'll work it out, and that they didn't even look at new ships that could come down the line yet. So that's to be determined.
There's factors that modify that, aren't there? There's ships that have got in the pipeline already that they need to build,
and the
there's
other
ships in the pipeline that they know they want to build.
I know they dropped things like Misk, Anvil, and I remember something else that came out of conversation was something. That's right, Drake. Someone said, I can't remember. John Crew said something, and someone was eavesdropping, and then said, "So does that mean that we could see a Corvette from Drake?" And he just smiled and said, "Yes, Yes, it does. So yeah, you could get a Polaris size, you know, release the Leviathan or whatever. I don't know, make a name up for you know, a Drake ship at that size. But yeah, absolutely.
And that stuff we just don't know. We don't know we don't know what family, we don't know what ships they've got planned. I think that John Crew, yes, is kind of a never say never type phrase.
Yeah.
With a bit more weight.
Yes, it's just past 8 a.m. It's 8:15 here in Australia on the eastern seaboard in the normal states. And when I say normal states, I'm not talking about Queensland because they're an hour off.
Yeah.
The cause says, why is salvage so good? Just solo the reclaimer and doing hammerhead salvage gets you 1 to 1.5 million. Do you think that will nerf salvage? Absolutely, because they're doing an economic change
and work.
And they turn their profitability up on things because they want you to try them. It's that simple.
Yep.
When a new whatever is new and it comes out, it'll earn more money because they want you to use it and test it. It's a bait and what do you call it? Hook, line, and sinker algorithm, isn't it?
Yep, bait and switch.
Not a bait and switch. It's just a bait.
Bait and switch. It's literally a hook, line, and sinker. They want you to try it. They can test it. They can do it out, and then they'll balance it.
Yep.
So yes, it will change, 100%.
Right. Kinji, Leslie, Discord, yes, Scott, yes, but I have to talk to randomly. Okay, so that's not right. That's not a question. So is this one a question? I don't have a question. I just wanted to highlight the Helldivers 2 sales and concurrent players. Players are hungry for immersive sci-fi experience. It's not niche anymore. Yeah, absolutely. I remember back just before COVID, Netflix put out a survey to a lot of people that watch Netflix, and 75% of people said they wanted more sci-fi shows. And you'll notice that there has been a skew at Netflix to make more sci-fi shows.
Yep.
It's not niche anymore.
No, it was a whole argument with why Star-Citizen kicked off. People argued, but
I was just going to say, quite frankly, in Australia, they don't make enough sci-fi shows. All they make here is dramas, and that's why nobody watches TV here anymore.
But
it's all
being
drama.
pitched originally. They were told there's no demand for it. No one wants a sci-fi game.
Yeah. What did IBM say? No one will ever use a PC computer. You know, like. You know what that is? That is resistance to change. And to be honest with you, it's the same thing that happened with Star Citizen. Back when Star Citizen dropped, the whole you go watch the original Kickstarter video. They said I was dead. You know that was publishers. That was publishers trying to push their views onto us. We want the PC to die, so you'll keep paying more money for consoles. That's
what they were telling Chris when Chris was going and saying, "Hey, look, this is the game I've got." I was saying, sci-fi games, no one wants.
And you can look at it again and again. People want loot boxes because it's full of shit. No, they don't. They will just say what they want and hope you'll go along with it. And it's just like politicians and whoever else tells you to believe shit. They will blow smoke up your butt. Or what is it? Gaslighting, I think is what the technical term.
And that's what Chris was saying. Look, this is what they're saying. And he said to them, look, I believe it was EA he was approaching at the time and being told no. And he said, I'll prove it to you. I'll do a Kickstarter and I'll raise this much money of people who want it. And then I got to the point and I hear, and I have not heard this specifically from CIG, this is stuff I've heard over the years on the limb.
I'm not laughing at you, by the way.
Sorry?
I'm not laughing at you, by the way. You won't believe what Lemming just said. He said...
I'm sure you'll tell me after. But people were saying that, you know, that EA kept changing the goalposts. Every time CIG went back, goalposts would change. And Sandy eventually said at lunchtime, just go yourself.
Yep.
Do it yourself. You don't need them.
And you've said that before too.
Thank you, Sandy.
I don't think you realize how much Sandy has done for this game. Yeah.
You know, so if you're thinking, Sandy has done nothing, no. Rethink that. Sandy is essential into where we are and why we've got what we've got.
So back to Lemming's point, he says Bondi Resco was a pretty good show. Yeah, it is a pretty good show, but guess what? It's not a drama. It's a reality show.
It's actually real life.
Yeah, that's like you can actually go to Bondi and meet some of those people. Hopefully not in a rescue situation, but yeah, that's a good show. But there are a lot of dramas here in Australia, and I just can't tell you why. And I think it's because the people that control the money, they again don't like change and don't like new things. And let's be honest. On a timeline, sci-fi is a more, it's going to sound really weird when it says a newish genre, meaning look at where Star Trek dropped and look how well that, like, it got cancelled and then it's it picked up and then dropped, and you know there's a cost to making them as well. You know, where a drama, they just set it in some small country town and go there and film it. There's no cost.
I can remember the hype over the original Star Trek movie when they brought it out.
Yeah,
because people had been hanging for it for so long and pushing for Star Trek to be redone.
Django,
and they spent 10 minutes just flying around the Enterprise because that's what.
Yeah, Django Laughs summarizes it really simple. Drama equals cheap to make. Reality is cheapest. And then someone else said a message. Cheapest to make. Sci-fi is very expensive because you got to recreate that whole world. Yeah.
Yep. And then do fancy stuff in there to do it as well. Unless you do a dystopia and everything's destroyed.
Yeah. All right. So we will have that episode coming for you on the Monday in the Up Over, Tuesday on the Down Under, about our thoughts on the latest events. You also had the video from yesterday if you want to go see what we thought of IRC. We're going to be rating PC 101 today because Piss Poor Pete was here, and here's Piss Poor Pete's handler or caretaker. And so I thought we'd rate him. He's currently got about 30 viewers watching him, so give him some grief about Piss Poor Pete. Ask him things like, why is Piss Poor Pete your favorite person, and why is he your worst person, things like that. So see if you can get some stuff out of him, and ask him who he prefers, Expat or Piss Poor Pete, because he also hangs out with Expat a lot as well. So yeah. All right, then I will get that raid sorted.
And we'll be getting ready to say goodbye to our Twitch guys. So everyone at YouTube, wave and say bye-bye to Twitch.
Bye-bye, Twitch. Bye, Twitch. Have a good time. And they're gone. So now we can talk about them behind their back? No, just kidding.
Yeah, now that Twitch is on. Oh, man.
Those bastards. Anyway, yeah. So if you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to those that went that extra mile on Patreon. And yeah, thanks again.
You know, you've always got that option. This is another option you guys have got. You can always share it with your friends. Get them to watch it as well.
Yep.
If you really like it.
Up to you. No worries. Yeah. Dislike it if you dislike it too, because that tells us, gives us some feedback as well. So
that tells us that you didn't like it. And if you do click the down arrow to say you disliked it, tell us in chat what you disliked.
Yeah, or leave a comment. Tell us why it's bad.
Don't tell me you dislike the triggers. Nothing I can do about that. I'm sorry.
Yep. So yeah, if you want us to improve, please let us know. All right, with that then, he's been Algared.
He's been executed, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.